Well, Andy, I don't think he intended to throw it there, but ran off the outside part of the plate and got Tucker Maxwell for strike 3.
Well, we talked with Danny Hall before the game.
I can hear you now.
He said, yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
We talked with Danny Hall before the game, and he said so crucial for Court Rodig to get through this first inning. So much pressure on him. A true freshman starting against the number 3 team in the country, which just so happens to be your school's blood rival. I know you get to do it at SunTrust Park as he gasses one by Riley King, the left fielder.
It's like something that you dream of your senior year of high school doing. I mean, that's why you come to Georgia Tech, right?
And so far, so good for the Orlando, Florida right-hander. And another rip and a miss. Georgia Tech has started Rodig tonight. Amos Willingham had been their typical midweek guy. He had started each of the previous 2 games versus Georgia. But they're preserving him for the weekend because their number 3 starter, Brant Herter, was pulled after 2 2/3 on Saturday due to forearm tightness. They want to leave open that possibility of needing Willingham on the weekend, as that one misses low 1-2.
To be completely honest, when Court Rodig has gotten the ball, when his name has been called, his number's been called to start during these midweek starts, he's been really good, especially for a freshman. This is part of the depth of this Georgia Tech pitching staff.
Bounces one away to even the count. As you get a look at King, the redshirt sophomore from Lawrenceville, Georgia, hampered by injuries his first 2 years. The Georgia batting order: Maxwell, King, Shunk due up in the first. Talley in the cleanup spot. John Cable DHs tonight. Shepard, Sullivan, catcher Mason Meadows, and the right fielder Cheney Rogers rounds it out. Annually one of the highest attended college baseball games outside of Omaha, and we anticipate the atmosphere, Roddy, being even livelier given where these teams sit in the rankings.
Yeah, unfortunately, Atlanta traffic is reared its ugly head for this one, so I think the crowd is going to be a little late arriving, at least the bulk of it, but still, I mean, for a Tuesday night, it's awesome.
Driven into right center field, Wilhite with the slide and the catch. He eats up a lot of grass at Russ Chandler Stadium, can do the same at SunTrust Park.
The thing that's so impressive about Nick Wilhite, when you see him in person, the jumps and the angles that he takes. I mean, that's a diving line drive, sinking in the outfield, and he's able to measure it right away, makes the sliding catch, makes it look easy. And these pro outfields are so much bigger than the college ones, just by measure of the sheer distance to the wall, but also in the gaps as well. So helps have a guy like Nick Wilhite.
Taking away a potential extra base hit, 2 outs instead for Aaron Shunk, one of the best two-way players in college baseball, 13 preseason All-American. And might top that with his numbers this year, 6th in the SEC in batting average in conference play, also 11 saves. A wave and a miss to even the count. Shunk actually homered against Georgia Tech at SunTrust Park last year, the junior from Atlanta. Georgia coming off a sweep of number 21 Missouri to elevate them to number 5 in the nation. And the best record in the SEC, most wins, 33 in the country. Georgia Tech comes in number 13, tied for first in the ACC Coastal at 13-8 with North Carolina. Yellow Jackets hold the tiebreaker. And North Carolina series also marked Court Rodig's last start. And as we said, he has pitched in some high-pressure situations before. Shunk 6 home runs, 29 RBIs on the year. That start against the Tar Heels also was against a top 10 opponent. It also took place in a rubber match. And Rodig threw better than his numbers that day. 4 earned runs across 4 1/3, but only allowed 2 hits. Both of them, though, went for home runs. As he deals the 2-2 to Shunk and sticks a strike on the outside corner. A strikeout swinging, a strikeout looking, and a 1-2-3 for Court Rodig will introduce your Georgia Tech starters just underway from SunTrust Park. No score. The rivalry known as clean, old-fashioned hate moves to one of the best stages for baseball in the country. SunTrust Park, home of the Atlanta Braves. Bulldogs go down in order in the top of the first. Now your Georgia Tech batting order. Yellow Jackets took 2 of 3 at Virginia Tech over the weekend. Waddell, Goldberg, and McCann due up. Tristan English had been out the last 4 games at first base because of a wrist injury. He is back DHing. Goldberg takes over at first base. Radcliffe, Hall, Wilhite, Webb, and Nick Wilhite to follow. Georgia #1 in the nation in ERA, and on the mound tonight, Tim Elliott, and he does not have your typical midweek starter numbers.
He certainly does not. The 6'1", 200-pound junior from Loganville. Just take a look at what he's done this year. 1.52 ERA. This guy would be starting on the weekend for most SEC teams, one of the best conferences in the entire country, but certainly most clubs around the country. Last time he faced these Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, he went 7 strong, only gave up 2 earned runs and 5 hits, struck out 6, only walked 2. And that's after he also faced Georgia Tech the first time around back on March 26th, where he went 4 1/3, giving up 2 runs, only 1 of those earned. But Tim Elliott is one of those guys that you may think that you're getting an easy starter on the midweek, but you certainly are not when he steps on the mound.
As he kicks the leg and delivers his first pitch to Luke Waddell, and it's over for a strike. Elliott 5th in the nation in WHIP, 9th in hits allowed per 9 innings. Waddell leads things off, and he's had a good couple of games against the Bulldogs this year, a combined 3 for 5 and a 2-run homer in Georgia Tech's win back in late March. Georgia Tech 8-1 in midweek games. That lone loss came 2 Tuesdays ago at Foley Field.
This crowd's going to be looking for an exciting game today. The margin of victory in the first game was Georgia Tech 11, University of Georgia 2. In the second game is University of Georgia 12, Georgia Tech 2. So we've gotten a couple of blowouts. Hopefully we'll get a good one today.
Grounded hard, deep in the hole, knocked down by Shepard. He gathers but cannot grip. And Waddell legs it off for a leadoff single. A 4th hit of the year by Luke Waddell against the Bulldogs.
That'll feel good. Struggled a little bit over the weekend at Virginia Tech, going 2 for 14. A lot of at-bats. Was hitless on Sunday, so that's got to feel good for Luke Waddell to get one there as he hits this ball hard up the middle. Shepard does a good job of getting over there, but just can't glove it. He can't secure it in his glove. Bobbles it on the when he got up. I don't think he'd had a chance to get Luke Waddell anyway.
And now it sets the table for the ACC's batting average leader, Michael Goldberg. .394 for the sophomore. Goldberg 1 of 6 against Georgia this year. 3 of 11 in Georgia Tech's 2-1 series win over Virginia Tech. A little low, and it's 2-0.
Goldberg has been so good for this Georgia Tech lineup, entrenching himself in that number 2 spot. Was up over 500 for much of the beginning of the year. That's dipped, I say that lovingly, dipped to 394, but still performing certainly well enough for this Georgia Tech team.
Takes a whack and comes up empty, 2-1. ACC batting average leader facing Elliott, who's part of the Georgia staff that leads the SEC, and opponent batting average at a scant 182. And as we noted, tops in the nation with a 2.57 staff ERA.
You look at the stats of this Georgia team, and the offensive stats don't blow you away, but what do they say about, in any sport, defense wins championships. In baseball, it's pitching and defense. You're talking about a team with the best staff ERA in the entire country, plays great defense behind it, one of the top defensive teams in the country. You do that, you're going to win a lot of baseball games, and that's why they're ranked in the top 5.
Waddell tracks a throw to first, 6 for 6 in stolen bases this year. And Georgia also 3rd in the nation in fielding percentage. Many reasons why they have set the pace nationally with 33 wins. As the 3-1 to Goldberg is inside, ball 4. Throw down to second won't matter, and Georgia Tech has him at first and second with nobody out. Very rarely will you see a hit allowed in an inning by Tim Elliott, let alone a hit and a walk in succession for the man who's 5th in the nation in WHIP. A 2-on nobody out for Georgia Tech's top home run threat, Kyle McCann, the junior from Sewanee, with 14 home runs.
Got off to a torrid pace at the beginning of the season, was absolutely on fire, and went through a little bit of a lull, but has since kind of gotten back into that power surge that he had early on. Although, talk about guys that would have loved to have left Blacksburg, Virginia, Kyle McCann would count himself as one of them, going hitless on the weekend.
Georgia Tech shifts its infield. One of McCann's 14 home runs was against Elliott in Athens 2 weeks ago. McCann second in the nation, second in the ACC in home runs, also third in walks. First time Georgia Tech and Georgia have met in the finale of this series when both teams are ranked since 2009. Georgia comes in winners of 7 straight against ranked opponents.
That's pretty good when you're in the SEC and you play ranked opponents, it seems like every week.
A 1-1 to McCann. Got on and missed.
Bulldogs have faced ranked opponents in 2 of their last 3 series. Ironically, their only SEC Conference Series loss came to a non-ranked opponent at Tennessee a couple weeks ago, but swept number 24 Missouri over the weekend. A couple weekends ago at the beginning of April, they took 2 or 3 from number 5 at the time, Vanderbilt. So, and that conference is always so loaded, and it seems like Georgia's risen to the top this year.
Bulldogs combined on a 1-hitter to clinch that series against Missouri and clinch the sweep on Saturday. Line down the third base line, but fading foul. .376th all-time meeting between Georgia Tech and Georgia. And for the 3rd time, they clash at SunTrust Park, the home of the Atlanta Braves. Proceeds from this game benefit, of course, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, one of the many reasons why they love having this neutral site game at the home of the Braves. Down low, and it's 2-2.
It'll be interesting, Andy. We talked about this on the first game where Georgia Tech and Georgia played. They're contemplating, maybe they've solidified moving this series to be a weekend series, which would absolutely make the attendance at the final game at SunTrust Park explode. If you had this game on a Sunday afternoon, I mean, you could get 35,000.
2-2 on the way. Strike 3 on the inside corner. And McCann down on strikes, 1 away. Elliott's 14th punch out against the Yellow Jackets. Across now 2+ starts. Running one back inside underneath McCann's hands.
Yeah, it looked like a hard slider that McCann thought broke a little too far inside, but from our view there, looked to catch the outside part of the plate, the inside part of the plate on the left-handed hitter, and Elliott's got his first strikeout.
Brings up Tristan English. And as we noted, Tristan English had missed the last 4 games. Suffered a left wrist injury after being hit by a pitch in their series finale April the 9th versus Boston College.
The number of times Tristan English has gotten hit by pitch this year, you figure that he's kind of playing with fire unintentionally, and finally took one that had him out for a little bit, but was able to hit today. Not out in the field, but still able to swing the bat a little bit.
Jackets are glad to have him back. .310 average, 9 home runs, 36 RBIs.
He was hitting really well for the Jackets when he got injured.
And he hits this one well. Ripped down the line, but it hooks into the seats. And Danny Hall, catching up with him before the game, said English's BPs the last 2 days looked like he wasn't even injured at all. Was still not able to rotate his wrist well enough since the injury occurred to his glove hand to be out at first base. Another two-way player has a team high 4 saves, including one as part of a doubleheader sweep on Saturday. Pops out of Meadows' glove, and it trickles towards the backstop. Both runners advance. Tackets have them at second and third. On an 0-2 pitch, Meadows had that pop out of the lip of his mitt.
It's going to be interesting because the background here for catchers, the outfielders, the hitters, so much different than they're accustomed to. Typically, the outfields of the stadiums that they play in are certainly not as high as SunTrust Park, so that one looked like Meadows just got a little tied up, a little crossed up, but that'll be something to watch because the backdrop here is much different than these young men are used to playing in.
There's a sacrifice in play. Elliott, that win over Georgia Tech 2 weeks ago, surrendered only a pair of solo home runs, one of which was to English. Leadoff single by Waddell, a walk by Goldberg after McCann struck out. Second and third, one away for the Jackets. Reaches out, rolls one, and hugs inside the line. Backhanded by Sullivan. Taps on first, but English puts it in play to score Waddell, and Georgia Tech takes the 1-0 lead.
Well, it wasn't pretty, Andy, but ultimately all you have to do is put the ball in play, and this defense wasn't able to. They actually seeded the run, but Georgia Tech out in front.
See the rest of the Georgia defensive alignment with King, Maxwell, and Rogers across the outfield. Shepard and Talley, the double play combination. As we said earlier, Georgia third in the nation in fielding percentage, .982, looking to surpass a school record that they set last year. Goldberg advances to third on the play, brings up Barron Radcliffe, who has seen the ball extremely well in Blacksburg over the weekend. The sophomore Barron Radcliffe 5 for 11 against the Hokies with 3 walks. Went 3 for 4 in their series finale.
I don't know if Coach Danny Hall could be more pleased with the progression at the plate in terms of discipline, in terms of putting good swings on the ball and patience than what Barron Radcliffe has done. This was a guy that was a high strikeout, low walk guy last year. Now he's hitting for average. He's up near 250. He's got a ton of walks on the season with 29. It's just been so much better this year for the Jackets at the plate, and I think a lot of it has to do with James Ramsey, the new hitting coach this year, coming in and working with him about being disciplined, and Radcliffe certainly has instituted it.
Elliott has been pounding him away, now fires a strike over the inside corner, 3-1. Radcliffe busted open Georgia Tech's win this year against the Bulldogs with a 2-run homer. Came back March the 26th, the Russ Chandler Stadium. 4 homers total for Radcliffe in 2019 as the shift is on to the right side. And he takes his base on the second walk from Elliott this inning. One of the reasons Georgia Tech was able to get that 11-2 win in late March against Georgia Tech, Georgia, was the simple fact, Roddy, that they ran Elliott's pitch count up.
They sure did. Were very patient early in the game. They ended up forcing only 3 walks in 4 1/3, but there were a ton of long counts, foul balls, and a lot of really making Elliott work, particularly with 2 strikes. I mean, this is a guy that's efficient, throws the ball over the plate, but Georgia Tech was able to chase him pretty early because they were just tenacious at the plate.
At the corners and 2 away, as you see the pitch count increased to 26. Colin Hall, the batter. a sophomore left fielder for the Jackets. And he's behind 0-2. Elliott tried to dance around some early and uncharacteristic control problems. Allowed the leadoff single on the infield to Waddell, who scored on the English ground out, but a pair of walks as well. The 0-2 to Hall. Low and inside.
This is how Georgia Tech was able to run up that pitch count in the first matchup, and see what Elliott can finish off Colin Hall here.
And he does. 2 strikeouts, but a pair of walks for Tim Elliott. A run, not a hit, 2 left, through 1 at SunTrust Park. Georgia Tech with the early 1-0 lead. Georgia Tech the 1-0 lead as we move to the second in a matchup between number 5 and number 13 in a rivalry heaped on top of it, or tail of the tape. Georgia Tech among the ACC leaders with a .287 batting average, but as we told you, facing this Bulldog staff that leads the nation, 2.57 ERA. Georgia Tech also, Roddy, has done a good job with its staff of holding down its walks. They've surrendered the fewest in the ACC.
Yeah, and you look at the University of Georgia, and they've got even fewer and more strikeouts. Just shows you how good this Georgia staff has been this season. I mean, it's historically good, and you look at the Georgia record books. If this holds, they are going to smash a ton of Bulldog records that have stood for many years.
LJ Talley leads off the Bulldogs' second, team's leader in batting average. Talley belted his 6th home run Saturday versus Missouri. The freshman Rodig punched out a pair in a 1-2-3 first. Behind on Talley, 2-0.
You know, it's an interesting matchup, Andy, with the freshman Rodig on one side, the junior Elliott on the other. Starting against your rival in a rubber match. And, you know, as you look at the tournament resumes of both of these teams, certainly both of them will be in a regional. The question's going to be, do you both host a regional? And right now it's looking like that's going to happen.
Bounced wide of third of foul to even the count.
Sorry, and if you start to get in a situation where you start to look at one or the other, then the resumes start to come out. And does head-to-head matter? I don't think people would come out and say yes or no, or at least the decision makers would tell us. But you have to think that they would look at it. So it could be a lot on the line.
Georgia Tech shifts on 2 strikes. Rodig unable to paint the inside corner, and the count's gone full. Now Georgia Tech, which has missed the NCAA tournament uncharacteristically for that program the last 2 seasons. Now not only looking good to reach the regionals, but potentially host, as that's ball 4 outside, a leadoff walk by Talley. Georgia, meanwhile, trying to solidify a national seed for the 2nd straight year. They were eliminated in their regional by Duke. First base runner allowed by Rodig, whose grandfather, Elmer Blanchard, by the way, lettered 1 season at the University of Georgia.
There you go.
1961.
It's funny, Andy, to go back to that regional conversation. Motivation for Georgia Tech to try and host a regional is one of the primary reasons should be so they don't have to go to the Athens regional and face the University of Georgia again.
Ball, no strikes. To the designated hitter, John Cable. Two 2-0, and that prompts a visit from McCann.
I think it's a good visit from McCann. I mean, Court Rodig flew through the first inning, was very efficient, had a couple of strikeouts, quick fly out, and was out of there. A little bit of a long bottom part of the inning, so you just go out there, settle your freshman pitcher, get him back into his groove, because last thing you want to do is continue to give up free passes to a team as good as Georgia.
A cut on 2-0 by Cable. He's a graduate transfer originally from Roswell, Georgia. Played his first 3 seasons at the University of New Orleans. Missed all of last season with a hamstring injury, but was preseason first team All Southland Conference. And that ball is belted deep to right. Radcliffe will watch it sail into the seats for a home run. And Georgia takes the 2-1 lead.
That is just raw power from John Cable. It didn't look like he even swung that hard. Ball just, it's a nice easy swing. Ball jumped off the bat and it was in the seats in right center field in absolutely no time over that Kaiser Permanente sign right by the 375 marker. Put Georgia up by 1 in the blink of an eye.
Cable's 5th home run of the year. Still nobody out. Here's Cam Shepard. First pitch swinging. Tough read off the bat by Radcliffe, but he makes the adjustment shy of the track for the first out. There's the Georgia Tech defense. Hall, Wilhite, and Radcliffe, the outfielders. Jackson Webb, who's really come on at the plate of late, once again at third base. Waddell and Wilhite up the middle. Tristan English DHs. Michael Goldberg at first base for a 3rd straight game, and McCann, the battery mate of Roding. Georgia Tech committed 1 error over the weekend versus Virginia Tech, as Patrick Sullivan stands in and looks at ball 1. Sullivan, the redshirt junior from Sandy Spring, Georgia. Had a home run last time these teams met. Lays off, takes low, and is 3-0. And that home run was in his first game back after missing the previous 13 with a concussion. I would say he cleared the concussion protocol. If they needed any more proof, you could show them the footage of that home run. Taken all the way 3-1.
Yeah, they say hitting a baseball is one of the hardest things to do in sports. Try doing it when you're not when you're recovering from a head injury, but Sullivan certainly was.
3-1 is whacked off the plate. Rolls all the way out behind the bag at first, but it is a foul. 3-2. Roddick has walked 1 this inning, and that ball is belted deep to right field. Radcliffe at the track leaps up in front of the wall and pulls it back in. It was hammered, but this time the ballpark was able to hold it for 2 outs.
You're always worried when the ball is hit that high and that far in this ballpark, but you look at a place like Rush Chandler Stadium or even Foley Field, the stands are so low that the wind may carry that one out of there. Here at SunTrust, no wind. The ball travels true and it ends a step shy of the wall on the warning track, and Georgia Tech fans can breathe easy.
2 away and a first pitch strike to the catcher, Mason Meadows. Back at the scene of where Meadows had a 2 RBI double against the Yellow Jackets last year. Richard, sophomore from Roswell, Georgia, even at 1-1. Mallers also spent some time on the shelf. He missed the first game. Back at Rush Chandler Stadium, he was out with a facial fracture at the time. Was struck by a pitch that he foul-tipped himself.
It's part of the reason you see him with that cage on his helmet right there to protect the.
Rolled out to short. Waddell guns it across. And that does it for the Bulldogs in the second. But a leadoff walk by Talley. And then on a 2-0 count, it was John Cable finding what he liked. A 2-run shot to right. And as we head to the bottom of the second, Georgia has the 2-1 lead. Now the T-shirt gun was all cranked up. And sometimes you got to do things manually, Roddy.
Can't trust technology.
It was fire in blanks. The fans still got their T-shirts here at SunTrust Park. Storied history between these programs. These teams first met in 1902. Georgia leads all time, including the 12-2 win in Athens, April the 9th. Also won both games that have been played at SunTrust Park. And they have the 2-1 lead as we go to the bottom of the second.
Georgia of late has really dominated this series, winning 7 of the last 8 and holding the Jackets scoreless here in the brand new sparkling SunTrust Park, one of the jewels of Major League Baseball.
The Braves appreciate you saying that.
It is. I mean, it is a lovely park. It's obviously got all the amenities of a new stadium, but it's not built cookie cutter. There's still some character to it. Get the large brick facade out in right field. It's awesome place to come watch a baseball game.
Austin Wilhite has the count even at 1. And not many college baseball programs have the opportunity to play a game at a major league venue, either because of geography or because the schedule just doesn't permit it. As that ball's banged into left for a leadoff base hit. 2 straight innings now. The Jackets have a leadoff man aboard.
Austin Wilhite doing a good job just jumping on this pitch, and he's a guy that's been a little cold of late, so it'll feel good for him to get on first base with a base hit there. Talking about a guy who has not been cold of late, Jackson Webb has been fantastic, really stealing that third base spot away from Oscar Serratos, who started the year as the everyday third baseman.
He's hit safely in 6 straight games. Doesn't show bunt, takes a ball on the inside. Roswell, Georgia native. 2 for 3 with the go-ahead RBI, the series finale against Virginia Tech. And to your point, in his last 5 starts, Jackson Webb at the plate, 8 of 18, 5 RBIs. Young man who was drafted out of high school by the Braves in the 37th round. And he gets his turn in the spotlight at SunTrust Park.
I have to imagine it'd be pretty cool to play in the Major League Park of the team that drafted you. Obviously, he has aspirations to continue his career. As you see that ball, a great pitch by Tim Elliott on the outside corner, but it's got to be pretty cool for a guy. I mean, it's one thing to play in a Major League Park when you got drafted, but when it's in the home park of the team that drafted you, that's got to feel even a little bit cooler.
I would imagine those emotions are swirling in him right now. Throw chases Wilhite back to first. Webb has had an interesting path at Georgia Tech. We'll touch on it more over the course of the broadcast, but he began his career at Tech. Redshirted, did not play his freshman year, then transferred to junior college. From junior college in Florida, he transferred to UCF, where he made 26 starts last year. And now he's transferred back to the program where his career started.
Truly all comes full circle. It's a winding road, and now finding a lot of success in the ACC in his second stint.
Wilhite off and running on the 3-1 pitch, but it is high, and his second straight inning, Elliott has allowed a single followed by a walk. Again, 2 on, nobody out.
He's creating a situation where he's having to do it the hard way a little bit. With Nick Wilhite up at the plate, you'd expect at least one of these pitches to be either a surprise bunt or a sacrifice bunt, potentially, as Wilhite runs well and have the opportunity to tie the game up. You get a runner in scoring position with less than 2 outs with a base hit.
Wilhite in his usual center field tonight. Rolls that bunt softly along third. Glove by Shunk. The side saddle throw is in time. Well, the job gets done by Wilhite as he advances his twin brother Austin to third. 2 in scoring position for the top of the order.
Just perfect execution. It's a bunt that's firmly in play, but this was a late show by Nick Wilhite, so it gives him an opportunity where if Shunk doesn't field that perfectly and throw to first base cleanly, he's going to have an opportunity to get on, but Shunk was up to the task. Nonetheless, you're able to get a job done. You put 2 runners in scoring position. And now all Luke Waddell has to do is put the ball in play up the middle away from the third baseman. He'll be able to score a run.
Waddell an infield single and a run scored in the Georgia Tech first. Sophomore from Loveland, Ohio, who's now had a 5-game hitting streak snapped in Georgia Tech's finale over the weekend. In front of that spinner from Elliott.
Yeah, not only was out in front of it, but the ball buried itself down into his hands, so he wasn't able to keep his hands inside of it, get that ball in play. Really good pitch by Elliott.
Or his first career win at SunTrust Park as a freshman versus Georgia Tech in 2017. Did it after he tossed an inning and a third of scoreless relief in an 8-7 Georgia win. He'd been a reliever his first 2 seasons. His confidence really blossomed according to head coach Scott Strickland in the offseason. The numbers would certainly bear that out. They are gaudy for a midweek starter. It almost feels like an insult to call him a midweek starter.
Yeah,
they're 5-1 with an ERA of 1.5. Two-one to Wilhite is whacked down the line, fair. It tucks into the corner. Luke Waddell continues to hit away against the Bulldogs. A 2 RBI double, and Georgia Tech, just like that, has regained the lead at 3-2. You want to know something wild, Roddy Jones?
I do.
Tim Elliott, in 47 1/3 innings coming in, had allowed 2 doubles all season. Now it's 3, and Luke Waddell has 2 of them.
That's incredible. He absolutely laced this one down the line. 2 runners score easily, and Georgia Tech takes the lead. Starting to see the back and forth nature of this game. Both of these teams, some of the best in the country, and we're seeing it early. Luke Waddell coming through in the clutch for the Jackets.
And it's scoring position for Goldberg, who walked his first time. This has not been the command and filling of the strike zone that Bulldog fans have grown accustomed to seeing out of Tim Elliott this year. All misses inside. Danny Hall had a lot of praise for Goldberg, who primarily played center field last year because of Tristan English still being held out last weekend versus Virginia Tech, and forced Goldberg into donning the first baseman's glove. And Danny Hall thought he handled that position very well. And first base again tonight as he's gone ahead 2-0. Goldberg is DH primarily this year. Underwent labrum surgery on his throwing shoulder in the offseason, and his throwing form still not quite back, prompting a move to designate a hitter.
we've got to get a mound visit as Georgia scrambles to start to get some relievers up in their bullpen. It's funny because if you're going to send guys to the bullpen here at SunTrust, you almost have to have a mound visit because the visitors' bullpen's out in right center field. The dugout obviously on the first baseline, so these guys have to run onto the field of play to get down there if they are not already.
Well, we can't say this, Roddy. 7 days ago, it was a memorable midweek game for these Bulldogs as they battled tooth and nail and into the wee hours of the morning against Clemson. They beat the Tigers in the game that had college baseball talking 3-2 in 20 innings. A program record for both.
I'm just glad they finished in time for us to start this game on time. I cannot even imagine playing a 20-inning baseball game.
Game ran 6 hours and 33 minutes. They recorded the final out at 1:35 local time.
On a school night.
And there were some bleary-eyed student athletes reporting to their 8:30 classes in both Georgia and Clemson the following day. Fouled off the plate by Goldberg. And that's what made it so remarkable that Georgia turned back around and swept Missouri, a very good team, in 3 games at Foley Field. You play 20 games, it extracts a lot out of you. And sometimes mentally you're just not all the way back for that series opener, but Georgia proven why it's a top 5 team nationally.
And with Easter, that series, which normally would have started on a Friday, started on a Thursday. So an even quicker turnaround, although they didn't have to travel. They got that game at home, but still, you're talking about that game ending at 1:30 a.m. on Wednesday and turning around on Thursday and playing another baseball game.
Feels like you never left the park.
Exactly.
3-1 to Goldberg. Off his hands and fouled over the screen.
Tim Elliott up to 46 pitches already in this game. So you got to start to think. Saw the Georgia bullpen starting to scramble. That pitch count has already run up, and we're only 1 out in the second inning.
Low outside, ball 4. Already a 4th walk issued by Elliott.
It's a guy that came in with only 12 walks on the season, Tim Elliott, and you said 4 already. Georgia Tech's done a good job of not chasing, but Elliott certainly has struggled with the control.
He did ring up Kyle McCann Look in their first encounter. Elliott, like we told you, 5th in the nation, a .7 whip. Georgia Tech has tagged him for 7 total base runners in the opening inning into 3rd. McCann a tentative swing, chasing one outside.
That last walk for Tim Elliott is a season high. Made it a season high so far in this game. The previous high was 3. He'd reached it twice. Once against Georgia Tech back on the 26th, and the other against Georgia State the 19th of March. So uncharacteristic walks for Tim Elliott. And we're only in the second inning.
Tech able to mash Georgia Tech's 2 runs in the top half. Waddell after the 2 RBI double at second. Goldberg behind him at first. McCann last week was named to the midseason watch list for the National Player of the Year award in college baseball. Got off to that blistering start at the plate. Numbers have tapered off a bit. He's 1 for his last 17, but still with 14 home runs, second most in the ACC. And still a fearsome presence at the plate. Elliott's 1-2, just low.
And you wonder why those numbers for Kyle McCann have tapered off so much. And I guess the real question is, has the everyday impact of catching, being behind the plate, which he wasn't last year. Joey Bart was there for much of the season. Really all of the season, other than a couple games here and there. If that starts to take a toll on Kyle McCann, he's a guy that certainly responded well to it at the beginning of the season, but Georgia Tech fans will hope that it's just a phase and he'll break out of it at any minute.
Swing, and he fouls it back.
See McCann all the way in the back of that batter's box. Elliott, let's see what he comes with here. I'd expect him to go with something similar to what he struck out Kyle McCann with that first at bat.
Swung on and driven deep into right field. Kyle McCann into the chop house for a 3-run homer. He came loaded up. A 15th homer of the year for the Jackets junior. And he puts them ahead 6-2.
Well, instead of going with the off-speed pitch, it looked like Elliott went with the fastball again and just got way too much of the plate. Let's see it. Kyle McCann with a beautiful swing. Knew absolutely right away as soon as it left his bat that one was well into the right field stands. And watch out, people at the bar.
Might have something land in your cups out there.
Exactly. That was a no-doubter.
So McCann, who had a solo homer against Tim Elliott in the matchup in Athens 2 weeks ago, goes yard for 3 more. 5 runs in the Georgia Tech second. Georgia, in that sweep over Missouri, Roddy, allowed 4 runs for the series. And Tech has tagged them for 6 in the opening inning of the third.
This matchup this year has seen no shortage of runs, and why would this game be any different? As the fireworks have started early here at SunTrust Park.
First pitch, grazes Tristan English. Among the nation's leaders in hit by pitches, that one more of a glancing blow, not the one that sidelined him for the previous 4 games. He will take his base regardless.
He just got back. Already he's been plunked by a pitch. We get another look at it. The guy can't catch a break. I'm not so sure that hit him.
Yeah, that was. If it did,
it was glancing.
Maybe grazed some hair on his arm. But
exactly.
That will turn out to be the last pitch that Tim Elliott has thrown. Hooked after an inning in the third with Georgia Tech on top 6-2. We'll tell you about the new Bulldog hurler after this. Georgia Tech has knocked out Tim Elliott after 5 runs plated against him in the second inning. The only out recorded by sacrifice. The bullpen door opens up for the Bulldogs, and Justin Glover makes his 17th appearance, sparkling ERA. Has received a lot of work after Ryan Webb was out. Back to where he earned his first career save at SunTrust Park over Georgia Tech in 2017. Now just trying to keep this margin at 4 as the Jacket Bats have come out smoking against the number 5 team in the nation.
Yeah, this guy's been a workhorse, and even though he's typically a guy that you see on the weekends, pressure situations, today he's going to be asked, as you said, to just steady the ship a little bit, give his offense a chance to get back in this game. Throw some strikes, really, because too many free passes and then a couple of opportunistic hits for this Georgia Tech team have got them up by 4 runs.
And he will face the 7th batter of the Georgia Tech second, and Barron Radcliffe, who walked his first time. Radcliffe, another Yellow Jacket who was drafted by the Braves out of high school, 40th round. His dad was a former draft pick of the Kansas City Royals, spent several years in their organization. You notice Roddy Barron, a very distinctive name. You'll also love the fact that he has a sister named Bishop.
Of course.
Barron and Bishop.
Oh, man, that's great. That's strong names.
I give points to his parents for the creativity.
No kidding. I mean, you talk about having to live up to a name. Your name is Barron or your name is Bishop. Like, you have no shot but to excel in whatever you choose. And Barron Radcliffe, that's a good sports name. It's a good sports name. Bishop Radcliffe is too.
I was going to say, take nothing away from her. 2-1 on the sophomore. Wave and a miss. Nice slider by Glover. It was typically been used in left-on-left matchups. Glover was a draft choice out of high school by Tampa Bay, 26th round in 2016.
I think that's part of the reason that the decision was made to go to Glover here. You get a left-on-left with Radcliffe and then another one with Hall behind him.
Reaches out, strokes one into left. King has it measured. 2 away.
Tristan English over there at first base. There was never a review of that hit by pitch. I say that with air quotes. We saw the replay and it was inconclusive at best as to whether or not he had been hit by that pitch, but it'll go down as hit by pitch, and I think Tristan will appreciate the fact that he didn't actually have to endure the pain that typically comes with his getting plunked.
Yeah, he's caught some flush this year. That one nearly hits Call. Now, for the benefit of those watching at home, we should note this being a neutral site game, replay is typically operated at SunTrust Park by, of course, the Braves. Well, they have loaned out their facility for the night to these teams. Therefore, neither dugout will have the benefit of a replay review.
Well, see, there you go. See, even I learned stuff there. I figured Georgia Tech home team, it's an ACC stadium effectively for the night. You get replay, but it works a little different, though, I guess, the mechanics here there.
Odd shot, knocked down by Shunk, and throws from the grass to get Colin Hall out. That does it for the Georgia Tech second, but it was a big second. 5 runs on 3 hits, no errors, and 1 left, including this Kyle McCann moonshot. Oh, you knew it when he dropped his bat. 6-2 Jackets. 6-2 Tech as we move to the third. Scott Strickland trying in vain to elude our cameras, but with the job he has done in Athens this year, hard to escape the attention. His 6th season, nation's leading 33 wins, trying to make it back-to-back years in which he's piloted the Bulldogs to a national seed.
He's built a powerhouse up there in Athens, and probably the toughest conference in the country to build a powerhouse. But with the amount of talent in the state of Georgia and obviously the resources that you have at a school with the cachet, the name, the tradition of the University of Georgia, it's always the opportunity to have success, but Strickland has taken that.
Roding drops in a strike to Cheney Rogers to lead off the Georgia third. Came to Athens after leading Kent State, his alma mater, to a College World Series in 2012. Ripped into the gap, coming on his Hall. He'll have to play it on a hop as Rogers delivers a leadoff single. Scott Strickland and Danny Hall will forever be linked, not only because they're the head coaches in this rivalry, but also because Danny Hall, as surely Georgia and Georgia Tech fans know by now, coached Scott Strickland at Kent State, where he was a 2-time all-conference catcher, and Scott Strickland later served 2 stints on Danny Hall's staff at Georgia Tech.
Always be that connection between the two, and like so many other things in this rivalry, of course there's crossover with Scott Strickland having been on the Tech side wearing the GT, and then obviously getting the opportunity to lead his own program and eventually getting the Georgia job.
And a look at Danny Hall's customary perch in the Georgia Tech dugout. A competitive but still amiable relationship between Danny Hall and Scott Strickland. As the count evens at 1 on Maxwell, he struck out swinging his first time.
Get a look at Coach Hall, one of the fixtures in college baseball for the last 26 years. And I think if you went back 26 years, there were probably a lot of questions as to whether he could replace Jim Morris, who had so much success at Georgia Tech and moved down to the University of Miami. But Coach Hall's done all right. He's the head coach of the Jackets.
I think he's got that College Baseball Hall of Fame plaque to prove it, as the count runs to 3-1 on Maxwell.
Exactly.
And he regaled us with the story of how he first recruited Scott Strickland out of Athens, Ohio, where Scott Strickland was born and raised. Danny Hall, Scott Strickland played, obviously not at the same time, but on the same American Legion team in the Athens area.
It's great. So Danny Hall had the advanced scouting report on Scott Strickland coming out of high school.
3-1 pitch. Skied on the infield. And snow coned and dropped by Webb, but obviously Rogers wasn't straying far from first, so an easy flip for the force and 1 out.
You know, we've seen it a couple times. It hasn't cost anybody yet, but this background, this backdrop is different for these guys. And even on these skied fly balls, you're having to deal with judging the ball as it goes up over the stands into the sky and then comes back down. And a lot of times it throws off your perception because these guys just aren't used to it. So that one's tough no matter what, but even tougher when you've got the big stands that you're looking into, the lights where there typically aren't any. Having to deal with all of that. It's good that Webb was actually still able to get the out at second base.
Although Maxwell is on now. And he's among the SEC leaders in stolen bases, 19 for 21. We'll see if he tests McCann's arm. He's off to the races. Throw down by McCann. Comes in on a hop, but over the bag, and the tag out at second. So Maxwell gunned down for just the 3rd time this year, and it comes courtesy of Cal McCann.
You know, we don't talk often enough about guys behind the plate and how awkward some of these throws can be. Kyle McCann barely even winds up for that ball, throws it perfectly right on the bag. Austin Wilhite doesn't even have to move his glove. Maxwell slides right into it, but that ball's low and outside. That's a tough ball for a catcher to throw on. Kyle McCann just uses it to wind up, barely steps, gets rid of that ball quickly, makes a great throw to second base.
Cal McCann, a 3-run homer, the bottom of the second. And then in the top of the third, he guns down Tucker Maxwell. Not a bad set of frames for the junior, as the count moves to 3-1 now on Riley King.
I think the kids call that getting you somebody who can do both.
In the air right field, Radcliffe turning his hips, and a leaping grab. Had to twist around on the warning track. Able to flag that down off the bat of Riley King. Turns into a 1-2-3 third thanks to some sterling defense behind the dish by McCann. Georgia Tech painted the box score in the first and second inning. A run in the first, 5 in the second to force out starter Tim Elliott. Justin Glover has taken over. Danny Hall, no stranger, of course, to this rivalry in college baseball. We were talking about his recruitment of Georgia head coach Scott Strickland, who turned into a 2-time all-conference catcher at Kent State under Danny Hall's tutelage. And Danny Hall deputized a very special scout, Roddy, to check out Scott Strickland in high school. One of the local high schools near Kent State was playing in a high school tournament in the Athens, Ohio area, where Scott Strickland played his high school ball, and afterwards the coach of that high school came back to Danny and said, there's a catcher down there for the local high school I think you should really take a look at. Danny at the time said, I wasn't really recruiting a catcher, but if you think defensively he can catch at the MAC level, I don't really care about his hitting, but if you think he can catch at the MAC level, I'll take a look. So Danny Hall's dad was a longtime coach in the Ohio Valley area, in and around Athens. That ball grounded out to short off the bat of Will Height. One away in the Georgia Tech third. And so Danny calls upon his dad and says, I need you to covertly scout this catcher. Came back with the report, said, yeah, I think he can do the job for you. And Danny Hall and Danny Hall's dad certainly made good on that prediction. And Scott Strickland transformed into a pretty good college head coach as well.
And no kidding. He had an eye for talent and an eye for the game of baseball, I guess, as well. If I had a longtime coach for a dad, I'd put him to work too. Come on, Dad, let's go scout some of these players. Matter of fact, you go scout them. You tell me.
I know retirement can be boring.
Exactly.
And get yourself out of the house. Ball bounces into Webb. 1 ball, 1 strike. Webb walked and scored in the second. And Webb lays down a bunt ever so soft. It's barehanded by Glover, but it has no throw. You could not have rolled that out any more gently with your hand. It's a bunt single by Webb.
Yeah, all Elliott could do Glover could do from the mound was wish, pray, and maybe try and wave the wind over to that, hope that it rolled foul. It did not. Jackson Webb with the great surprise bunt down the line and fantastic execution. It's funny because, you know, in a lot of these places you get a lot of dirt before you hit the grass down the lines, which helps the bunter. It actually hurts at a place like this where the grass is really tight to the line, because once it rolls off that grass, it goes foul pretty easily. It did not do that here, and Jackson Webb is on.
And full swings or bunts. Either way, he's been locked in. Now 9 for his last 19. 1 on, 1 out for Nick Will Height. He had a successful sacrifice bunt in the second. Fake of a toss still sends Webb diving back into first. Inside out swing, looping into foul territory and over the Tech dugout. Nick Will Height and his twin brother Austin, mainstays in the starting lineup this year. Natives of Buford, Georgia. But they were both born in Athens. Told us their family moved out of the area when they were about 2.5, so they don't remember much of their time in the Athens area. But Athens, Georgia on their birth certificate. I really don't know why I said they were both born in Athens. You probably could have deduced that, seeing as they were twins. If one of them was, one of them wasn't, that would be a medical miracle.
Unless they were born in the ambulance. One at 100 miles an hour. One was delivered in Athens, and the other was delivered in like Loganville or something. Maybe Winder. That's a little bit closer. Possible. I'm sure it's happened before. I mean, it's a big world. A lot of babies have been born, so I'm sure there's twins out there that have been born in different cities.
Paints the inside corner, 1-2. Nick Will Height in the 9-hole has batted really well of late. He comes in toting a 6-game hitting streak.
4 hits over the weekend, and he has he's been one of the big reasons this Georgia Tech lineup has been so good over the course of the year.
Reaches out, sends one into shallow left. Shepard onto the grass, 2 outs.
We didn't see it there in that at bat, but So you shot at Jackson Webb. Nick Wilhite's on base percentage up near 400. For that to you to have that at the bottom of the lineup gives your top such a bigger margin for error, because if they're not hitting well, then you're still going to get base runners down at the bottom, and if they are, then you're scoring runs because those guys are driving them in, and Luke Waddell's been one of the guys doing it.
Especially guys at the top like Waddell and Goldberg. Waddell a single in the first, a 2 RBI double in the second. And he sits on strike one. It's 2-for-2 performance tonight. That makes Luke Waddell 5 for 7 against the Bulldogs this year. Last week was named to the Brooks Wallace Award watch list, honoring the nation's top college shortstop. Even though Waddell hasn't played shortstop for all of the year, he began at second base. And Danny Hall opted to flip Austin Wilhite and Waddell.
Waddell, being a sophomore, didn't play shortstop really at all last year, and there's been a little bit of disagreement amongst the Georgia Tech dugout about why the switch was made, but it's really worked out. Waddell's been excellent at shortstop. Wilhite's been excellent at second base, just shows their versatility, and then both of them kind of took off at the plate at the same time. They made that switch.
Fly ball into right, deep. Rogers looks up. It's off the top of the wall. Ricochets hard off the brick. Another extra base hit for Waddell as he coasts into third with an RBI triple. We're in the third, and Waddell is a home run shy of the cycle. He's got a third RBI, and Tech has the 7-2 lead.
It's like this Georgia Tech team is eager to get their first win at SunTrust Park. This ball is absolutely drilled over the right fielder Rogers' head, and once it hits off the wall, you knew it was going to be a stand-up triple. James Ramsey's fired up. Luke Waddell's fired up. Everybody's fired up in that Georgia Tech dugout as that lead now extends to 5 runs, and it has been an offensive explosion today.
A check swing, but Goldberg doesn't go around 1-0.
There's no way he can get a cycle in 4 innings, right?
Now remember, he has 2 home runs on the year. One of them came against Georgia back on March the 26th.
That would be the answer to all kinds of trivia questions.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Goldberg, 2 plate appearances, 2 walks.
That cycle, were he to get it, would be the natural progression cycle too. Single in the first, double in the second, triple in the third, 4-bagger in the fourth. I don't know. Maybe. Stay tuned to see.
2-0 to Goldberg. He's at the knees for a strike. Earlier this year, Tristan English hit for the cycle versus North Carolina.
Sounds right.
And he became the first Yellow Jacket to hit for a cycle since 2001. 3 innings in, Luke Waddell is one big swing away from joining him. Glover delivers the 2-1, is low and outside.
If you're Luke Waddell, if I'm Luke Waddell, I am swinging for the fences every at-bat from here on. Especially if you stay up 5 runs. You got to be going for it, right? You can't let that. If you hit for a cycle in a major league ballpark, that's big time.
Low and in, and Goldberg walks for a 3rd straight time. Well, when Georgia Tech, Roddy, hammered Georgia 11-2 in a game that was shortened to 7 innings because of rain on March the 26th, the 11 runs were the most scored against Georgia this year. A Bulldogs team that leads the nation in ERA. 7-2 Tech in the bottom of the 3rd. And now 2 on with 2 out for McCann. Bulldog fans probably don't need reminding what Kyle McCann did his last swing. A 3-run homer off Elliott. It's amazing how one swing can purify your soul. Kyle McCann had been 1 for his last 17 before that blast into the chop house and right.
Same with Luke Waddell. I mean, he leads the game off with that line shot, sinking liner that shortstop Shepard isn't quite able to field. It's a guy who was 2 for 14 over the weekend, and he's 3 for 3 and a home run shy of the cycle. So Tech fans will hope that Kyle McCann, in much the same way, who struggled over the weekend, that home run unlocks the bats and it starts to all pour out.
Pitch tails outside, 2-1.
This is a Georgia team that through 41 games has only given up 7 or more runs now 6 times, 2 of those times coming to the Jackets. As you said, Andy, the previous tally of 11 was the most that they had given up all year. Still the most they've given up all year. Given up 7 a couple of times and 8 once, and that 8 came in a win.
Rounded out weekly to second. Tally is up with it, and the Jackets go down in the third, but a run on 2 hits, and once again the damage was inflicted by the leadoff man Luke Waddell. An RBI triple. All smiles as he cruises into third as the Jackets cruise into the fourth with a 7-2 lead. 2-2-0 for Georgia, 7-6-0 for Georgia Tech as we move to the fourth at SunTrust Park. Georgia has built quite a resume for itself as we get heading into this last month of the regular season. That 33-8 record, Georgia's best through 41 games since the 1990 national championship year. 9-5 versus teams in the RPI top 25. They also have the most wins versus ranked teams in the nation currently at 10, 7 of them in a row.
Pretty strong resume. That RPI, 4th in the country. The road record, 11-5. I mean, that resume stacks up against anybody in the country. They go on, continue the way they're going, end up being the #1 overall seed in the tournament once the regionals start. We'll see how it all shakes out, but they are the cream of the crop in a conference that is the most competitive in the country.
There's a cream of the crop player among two-way guys in the country. Aaron Shunk leads off the Bulldog fourth. Strikeout looking against Rodig their first time up as Rodig drops in a strike. Cor Rodig, the freshman, gave up that 2-run homer to Cable in the second. Walked 1, struck out 2 as that ball is belted deep left center. Shunk up and over. Leadoff home run for Aaron Shunk. That's also the sound that ball just made in the bleachers when it landed.
What kind of balls are they using today? I mean, he's absolutely flying out of this ballpark, and it was almost a no-doubter. It's a deep part of the ballpark over there, over the Equifax sign, and Shunk absolutely drilled it to left center field. Maybe that'll put a spark into this Georgia lineup and get them going as you're able to climb back 1 run closer with nobody out to lead off this 4th inning.
If you're Cor Rodig, you give up a home run, you'd rather it be with nobody on.
Yeah.
Here's an odd stat that's unfolding for Cor Rodig as he works on LJ Talley. In his last 2 starts, Cor Rodig, across 7 2/3 combined innings, has given up 5 hits, which sounds pretty good. 4 of them have been home runs.
That's incredible.
Runs one back under Talley's hands, a ball and 2 strikes. Talley walked and scored in the Georgia second.
Not even sure what you say as a coach to a guy with that stat line. Because on one hand, he's pitching really well, only giving up 5 hits.
Into the shift, knocked down, but unable to be grabbed by Waddell. See how they score that as Talley reaches.
I'm going to guess that one's going to be scored as an error, and it sure is. We just got the word that it's going to be an E6. So Waddell fielded it pretty easily. Just seemed like he couldn't quite get his feet under him to throw that ball. They slipped out from under him, and Talley's able to get on first base. And I'm not saying Georgia's going to mount a big rally here, but if they were, this is exactly how they'd want it to start. Home run to get you back one, and then a base runner with nobody out.
Nine outside to Cable. His home run off Rodig in the second was Cable's 5th of the year. RBIs 26 and 27. For a man who has 2 grand slams among his tally in 2019. And here comes Danny Hall. And it looks like Danny Hall will make the call for a left-hander. Cort Rodig exits with the lead. The man who was named after a character in the Stephen King novel The Gunslinger. How fitting for a pitcher. Cort Rodig gives up 3. The Jackets, though, lead by 4. We'll tell you about the new Tech pitcher after this. With a run in on the Shunk homer and a run on, nobody out still, or rather one out, nobody out rather in the Georgia 4th. Georgia Tech trying to snuff out the rally. They turn to one of their veterans in the bullpen, Roddy, Jake Lee.
Yeah, Jake Lee's a guy who pitched a lot for this Georgia Tech team this year. You see his 13th appearance on the season. He's coming off of a little bit of a rough outing against Virginia Tech in the second game of that doubleheader, where he did not record an out, gave up 2 walks before he was pulled, only throwing 8 pitches. So as you can imagine, did not throw a strike in that outing, but in a situation where Georgia Tech still has the lead by 4, but anytime you've got the number 4 team in the country, number 5 team in the country that you're playing against, you don't want to take any chances of them getting back in this game. So Jake Lee is brought out. Cort Rodig is given the rest of the night off. And I think part of that's because with the uncertainty of Brant Herter, Amos Willingham obviously going to go, or potentially could go on Sunday for the Jackets. So having Rodig in an abbreviated outing gives you the opportunity to throw him as well this weekend if you need him in a big series for the Jackets coming up against the Clemson Tigers.
Clemson team that has surprisingly dropped 7 straight.
Yeah,
they will play with some urgency at Russ Chandler Stadium this weekend. Brant Herter dealing with some forearm tightness, hence him only surviving 2 2/3 his last start versus Virginia Tech. We did catch up with Danny Hall before the game. He said Herter had a throwing session today. He said his arm felt normal. They'll run some more examinations on him tonight and tomorrow to see about his availability for this weekend. Shunk, the home run to get things started. The Bulldog 4th. Talley reaching by the E6. A 1-0 count. The Lee inherits on Cable. Well, all things considered, knowing how potent this Georgia lineup can be, that Danny Hall could bring 3 into 3rd out of his freshman Cort Rodig surely would please him.
And I'm not sure if this plays into the thought process of Danny Hall, but the way the ball is traveling tonight out of the ballpark, you got to think a guy like Cort Rodig, even though he's done a pretty good job of avoiding bats, when bats have made contact, they've gone a long way over the last couple of starts.
Got on and missed. 1-2 to Cable. Georgia Tech's bullpen has given Yellow Jacket fans every possible emotion in 2019. Down and in 2-2. They got some terrific work by Micah Carpenter to earn the save and clinch the series at Virginia Tech. He came on, bases loaded, nobody out. Game tying run was at second. And he was able to preserve the win for the Yellow Jackets on the road. In the dirt again, the count's gone full.
Cable got the home run party started today. Always dangerous in a hitter's count.
There's the 3-2. Spoiled off. Georgia Tech occupies what is typically the Braves dugout at SunTrust Park. Now they are the visiting team in this neutral site game. Georgia Tech and Georgia alternate being the home team. It's Georgia Tech's year to wear the home whites. There's another 3-2 from Lee. In the dirt again. Couldn't back foot him on the breaking ball. Now first and second for the Bulldogs.
That decision to take Court Rodig for Danny Hall, it's a little quicker than maybe we would have anticipated. Interesting to see how long he allows Jake Lee to go in this game, particularly if the walks continue or if the base runners continue even for this Georgia team.
Cam Shepard flew out his first time. As Webb straddles the cutout at third, weary of a sacrifice. Shepard doesn't show, takes a ball. Georgia Tech has still surrendered the fewest walks as a team in the ACC. Into right field, that sits down for a base hit. Talley gets held up at third. Georgia Tech will try to play for a big inning, throw back down to second, but the tag not in time. As Cable was nearly caught on the turn. Instead, bases juiced on the single by Shepard, and still nobody out.
It's a pretty smart decision by Barron Radcliffe in right field. The advantage of being the right fielder is you can see whether or not that runner at third base is going to decide to go home. Looked like he saw that, decided to go to the trailing runner at second base, and almost got him at second base as Cable, rounding second, was looking at third to see what Talley was going to do. Talley holds up, and Bulldogs are lucky to still have the bases loaded, but they do with nobody out. And Andy, this rally is officially on.
Here's Patrick Sullivan. He flew out deep to right his first time and stares at strike one from Lee. Home run, error, walk, single. Tally for the Bulldogs in the fourth. And did that hit him?
I think they're going to say it was a foul ball, or that he went and it didn't hit him. Oh, you saw Kyle McCann was a little confused. I think Kyle McCann thought it was either a foul ball or it hit Sullivan at the plate. Danny Hall's now out to talk about it as well. Let's see if we can get a look at it.
Bounced right off his heel.
It hit off his heel. And the run's going to score no matter what. So if you're Georgia Tech, maybe 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. It's just a matter of whether Sullivan's going to be at first base or not.
And again, we should remind you, since these teams are borrowing the Braves facility, teams do not have the benefit of replay review.
Never thought I'd say this, but kind of miss replay today.
I would say we're going old school with the lack of replay. Replay reviews only became standardized in the ACC as of a couple years ago, as you look at Mark Carpenter and Bart Nicky.
Oh, it's definitely old school. If I can say back in my day, we didn't have replay. And it is old school. We get the old school conference from the umpires. Watch how this ball bounces when it gets towards that back heel of Sullivan. I mean, it certainly hit it. I'm not actually sure if Sullivan knows that was the ball that hit his back heel. Because very easily could have been Kyle McCann's glove.
And Danny Hall is burning hot now. I believe he's just been warned. It's a wild pitch. Now again, had that been called a hit by pitch, run would have scored anyway. Bases still would have been loaded. Instead, they're in second and third. And an 0-2 count on Sullivan.
Yeah, I think the reason that Coach Hall is so fired up is because he felt like it was a foul ball that was missed. It hit off the bat of Sullivan, which would have obviously taken the run off the board. All the runners go back and nothing happens. And had we had the benefit of replay, it would have been a hit by pitch anyway, and Sullivan would have been on first base.
Swing and a miss. McCann guns out to first to complete the strikeout, one away. Now, we've seen that replay a couple of times now, and you can see how it'd be confusing to call because that ball was sinking toward the dirt. So had you not seen that ball deflect off the heel of Sullivan, you can understand why, from a home plate umpire's vantage point, you'd think it might have skipped off the dirt and over McCann's glove.
And I think from Danny Hall's perspective, you very rarely see a ball ricochet like that one did off the heel of Sullivan. It ricocheted so quickly and so high up that typically the only time you see that is when the ball hits off the bat, goes down in the dirt, and comes up. So it looked like a home plate umpire.
Well, McCann lost that ball, rolling outside the batter's box, and sliding in safe is Cable to make it 7-5. A 3 spot for the Bulldogs as they take advantage of the errant pitch from Lee.
Just to finish that thought, it looked like our home plate umpire, Darren Arnold, knew that it didn't hit the bat, but wasn't really sure other than that. And this one was just one that got away from Kyle McCann, and Georgia certainly has taken advantage. They can cut it to 1. Let's take a look and see what happened. McCann just wasn't able to square it up in his chest, gets a little too far away, and Georgia's able to scratch across another. Here we go. We've been asking for a close game.
That puts Shepard at third, 1 out and a 1-0 count on Meadows. Georgia Tech draws its infield halfway in. Check swing and a strike. Not to belabor the point, but are you surprised that Sullivan maybe didn't plead his case more, that ball struck his heel?
That's why I'm not sure that Sullivan knew it was the ball. It very easily could have been ahead of the bat. It very easily could have been Kyle McCann's glove. I don't know that he knew for a fact that it was the ball.
Right to third, throw home, play at the plate, and out. Shepard didn't even bother with the dive as he knew he was dead to rights. Now that ground ball scores to third. Webb was up with it, 2 outs.
It's an excellent play by Jackson Webb at third base, being aware, and he was about even with the bag at third base. This ball's hit really sharply, basically right at him. Shepard takes off, and he is dead to rights at the plate, and it's quite honestly poor base running by Cam Shepard in that situation. When you're at third base, if it's hit at the third baseman or the first baseman, that's when you hesitate, make sure that it gets through, gets past. If it's hit up the middle, that's when you can go on contact, and that's exactly why Georgia Tech was able to get an out without another run crossing.
Ball 1 to Cheney Rogers, who singled his first time up. Dulls some of the momentum that had been swelling for the Bulldogs in the top of the 4th. Rogers swings over the top of the 1-1. Redshirt freshman from Ringgold, Georgia. Had an offer from Georgia Tech, according to his hometown paper. Only had 8 at-bats as a true freshman, which preserved a year of eligibility. Lays off and takes down and in.
Imagine the familiarity between Danny Hall and most of these Georgia players are fairly high, as Coach Hall obviously seeing a lot of these guys come up through the state, recruiting many of them, and vice versa with Scott Strickland.
Another full count with the top of the order on deck in Maxwell. Georgia Tech has helped the Bulldogs along in this 4th inning. An error, a walk, a wild pitch. All contributing to 3 runs coming across. And the 3-2 from Lee is well outside.
Georgia certainly had their opportunities in this inning, taking advantage of some. And others haven't quite taken full advantage of that. We've already seen a ball get away from Kyle McCann in this inning. You got a runner on third base, you feel a little bit better about the possibility of getting another run across. Now it's going to take a base hit.
McCann wants to pay a word with Lee as he falls behind on Maxwell 1-0.
Jake Lee has had pretty good stuff in this outing. Only the 1 walk so far. Wasn't done any favors with the error earlier in the inning, but that walk when he first came in was the only one that he had up until the last batter, and just don't want that control to start eluding you with 2 outs here.
Maxwell's average jumped 70 points with runners in scoring position, .324 on the year. Now swing and a miss to even the count. Maxwell is batting leadoff. He had never batted leadoff this season until the game April 9th versus Georgia Tech in Athens. And what did he do? His first at-bat, a leadoff home run. It's kind of odd. He leads Georgia in home runs and stolen bases. You don't often see that. Usually you're good at one, not the other.
Exactly.
You get a lot of speed. Often you don't have the power to lead your team in homers. And if you get a lot of power, often you don't have the speed to lead your team in stolen bases.
Sure, Maxwell takes a lot of pride in the fact that he is the Flash and the Hulk on this team.
Meadows at second, Rogers at first. Inside.
Can I talk about Flash and Hulk in the same sentence? It's 2 different universes. I'm not.
That is true. Yeah.
I think the comic book fans may be looking down upon me.
Yeah, your timeline is about to go nuts.
Man, I'm sorry. I apologize. I realized my mistake.
Just misses the outside corner. Bulldogs have him loaded again.
Strike zone jumping around on Jake Lee a little bit with 2 outs. You just see Danny Hall making his way out, and we're going to get yet another pitching change here in the 4th inning.
3 runs already in, and bases loaded for the Bulldogs. They enter this inning down 5. It's down to a 2-point margin. Chance for more. Georgia Tech onto its 3rd pitcher of this 4th inning, and Micah Carpenter inherits a familiar spot. He earned his first career save on Saturday in their finale versus Virginia Tech. He came on with bases loaded. As you look at his numbers, bases loaded once again for the Bulldogs, with Georgia Tech trying to preserve a 2-run lead.
His last time out was in that fantastic inning, or that fantastic outing, an inning pitch against Virginia Tech that you just mentioned. This is a guy that Worked a lot for Georgia Tech this season. His 12th outing on the season. He's pitched in the midweek against Auburn last week as well. Boston College pitched against Georgia up there, where he pitched 2/3 of an inning and struck out 2. So no stranger to the Bulldogs, and been one of the hottest pitchers for Georgia Tech. He's only given up 1 earned run in the month of April. Only 2 earned runs since March 5th. Oh, one of the most reliable arms for Georgia Tech out of the bullpen, and Micah Carpenter.
They'll face Riley King, the 2-hole hitter. King a pair of flyouts. An inning that began with an Aaron Shunk home run. And they're packed again thanks to a fielder's choice and back-to-back walks. There's a strike on the outside corner to King. Breaking ball, gets it with the end of his bat.
Riley King was right on that pitch, just a little out in front. Realized a little too late that that was an off-speed pitch. Had already committed, but had he seen it out of his hand, that swing was right on an off-speed pitch from Micah Carpenter, just a little early.
He gets a sign from McCann, and the pitch is scooped out of the dirt, 2-2. McCann has been busy here this 4th inning. And now the count's gone full again, and nowhere to put King.
If you're Riley King, you know it too. You can be aggressive. As you know, Micah Carpenter's got to bring something to you. If you're Carpenter, you want to make sure you get enough of the plate where it's surely a strike without leaving a fat one down the middle for Riley King.
He does have 5 home runs on the year. Crowd is into it at SunTrust, as you would expect. The stretch and the 3-2 is fouled off.
That one got up on Riley King a little quicker than he anticipated. It was a little behind that fastball by Micah Carpenter. It was a good pitch on the outside part of the plate.
Grounded to third, charging Webb, throw on the run in time, and Georgia scores 3 but strands 3. We move to the bottom of the 4th. Georgia Tech 7, Georgia 5. Bulldogs hang 3 in their half of the 4th, still 7-5 Georgia Tech. Andy Hall loaded up on quality opponents here in 2019, and his team has answered the call. 27-13, an RPI of 14. According to some calculations, is as high as 11, which puts them firmly in the picture for a top 16 national seed. Marquee Series win, certainly that near sweep at Louisville, and 10-7 versus teams in the RPI top 25. You can never have enough quality wins come Selection Monday. Roddy Jones and Georgia Tech will bid for one more notch as we move to the bottom of the 4th.
Certainly cannot, and it's getting that time where it's resume polishing time. You've already built it. You got to continue to shine it up, excuse me, and present it to the committee at the end of the year and hope that it's good enough.
New pitcher for the Bulldogs is Adam Goodman. Left-hander to face English, Radcliffe, and Hall.
He pitched in that matchup, that 11-2 win for Georgia Tech back on March 26th. Got touched up. He faced 2 batters, gave up 1 hit, 2 earned runs.
First pitch swinging, and it's sent into the seats by English. English, an RBI ground out in the first, followed that up with a hit by pitch in the second. Georgia Tech fans glad to see number 11 back in the lineup. Very scary hit by pitch he suffered against Boston College 9 days ago. Goodman with an ERA at 5 and 15 strikeouts over 9 innings of work. He deals the 0-2 to English. Well high.
We've not seen the efficiency that we're accustomed to seeing from either one of these pitching staffs, really. Typically with 2 strikes, it's an automatic out. We've seen a lot of good hitting like you see there. A lot of foul balls that have forced deep counts and more walks than we're accustomed to. Certainly out of the Bulldogs pitching staff, but out of Georgia Tech last inning as well.
Framed by Meadows, doesn't get the call. 2-2. And both these teams are too veteran-laden, too polished offensively to not make you pay for the free passes. As the count now goes full to English.
The other part of that is the quality of pitching that they see on a week-in, week-out basis in the ACC and the SEC. I mean, there's no easy game. There's no games off in either one of those conferences in terms of the arms that you see on the mound.
And the 3-2 spoiled off. A big series lay ahead for both of these teams as Georgia heads to Mississippi State, a team that Scott Strickland says might be one of the most all-around complete programs in the nation this year. Georgia Tech is back at home to take on a Clemson team that has been anchored in the top 25 almost all season until this week after they got swept by Duke, surprisingly so. Tigers trying to snap a 7-game losing streak before they head to Atlanta. Fly ball, slicing into right center. Maxwell gets over and reels it in. 1 away.
We've had an explosive and exciting few innings. It's a good start, a start that Georgia Bulldogs fans will be happy to see after Georgia Tech having leadoff man reach in 2 of the 4 innings so far. Last inning being the only other inning that leadoff man has not reached. So it looks to be settling down at least early in the innings on the mound.
Aaron Radcliffe will walk into fly out. Tech has touched up Georgia arms for 6 hits through 3 into third. That ball is bounced wide at first. And this Georgia team, Roddy, they lead the nation in hits allowed per 9 innings. What's amazing is that Georgia Tech, out of the top 5 teams nationally in that category, hits allowed per 9 innings, they have faced 4 of them. 9 total games. They've gone 5-4. A swing and a miss as Radcliffe runs out of bat on the slider by Goodman.
See where this pitch ends up. Excellent sweeping slider. As you said, I just feel like Baron Radcliffe didn't think that slider was going to continue to frisbee off the plate quite as much as it did, and ended up about 4 to 5 inches off the plate. Excellent pitch by Goodwin.
Trying to atone for a shaky appearance last month in Atlanta versus the Jackets. Colin Hall is over 2. Grounded sharply but foul. On a pair of his 23 RBIs in the win over the Bulldogs last month. Out to second. Talley, gloves, throws, and it's a 1-2-3-4 for the Jackets. On to the 5th at SunTrust Park. Third deciding game of the annual series between the Jackets and Bulldogs. Georgia Tech on top by 2. 5-4-0 for the Bulldogs. 7-6-1 for the Yellow Jackets as we move to the 5th at SunTrust Park. USA Today baseball coaches poll sees Pac-12 1 through 3, and Georgia sitting behind Vanderbilt, even though Georgia took 2 of 3 from the Commodores earlier this year. And at number 6, the highest ranking ACC team in Louisville, which nearly got swept out of its own ballpark by the Yellow Jackets. We check it at number 13.
Just look at the power at the top. Pac-12, SEC, ACC dominating that top 13. You can extend that out to 25, and it's much the same story. The SEC certainly has its fingerprints all over that top 25. ACC and Pac-12, though, no slouches as well.
Oregon State in solid position to try to defend his College World Series title.
It's a scary team. They experienced, obviously extremely talented, and having been there before, they've got the attitude.
Yeah.
They're going to be battle tested. I mean, you look at who they played this year and what's in that conference, and it's a scary team come May and June.
Aaron Schunk is a scary hitter. Leads off the 5th of the Bulldogs. He led off the 4th with a solo home run, his 7th of the year. Facing the right-hander Micah Carpenter. Dug out of a bases-loaded jam to retire the side in the 4th, but not before 3 Bulldog runs touched across. Lined into left, another base hit. Chunku's raised his batting average 20 points in SEC play. And he gets the leadoff man on for the Bulldogs.
Every time the leadoff man has reached for the Bulldogs, he's come around to score. It was Talley in the 2nd inning. That inning they scored 2 runs, and then Schunk in the last inning. Well, I guess it counts when you get on, but you don't stay on. You just touch all of them and go back to the dugout. So he let off last inning with a home run.
First pitch strike to LJ Talley. Pair of runs scored for Talley, senior from Folkestone, Georgia. Making his 178th career start tonight. Doesn't offer, takes on the inner half, 0-2.
There's something about being in a ballpark, a major league stadium, when it's got as many fans in as this one. There's an audible buzz in the ballpark that you don't typically get in most of these college venues. Now, those are intimate and fantastic.
Hot shot up the middle, past the dive of Wilhite. Schunk hustling for third, gunned in by Wilhite. It's offline, and now Talley breaks for second. Bulldogs 2nd and 3rd and in business in the 5th.
You like the aggressiveness by Schunk going 1st to 3rd. Nick Wilhite deciding to try and get Shunk at third, allows Talley to get to second base. And he might have had a shot with this throw. It was just so far offline that Shunk didn't even have to worry about it. Again, Talley cruises into scoring position, and tying run is now 180 feet away, and Danny Hall has seen enough from Micah Carpenter.
Calls for a left-hander. That should be the freshman Luke Bartnicki. (7-5) Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech started a freshman tonight, Court Rodig. They turned to a freshman out of the bullpen now, the left-hander Luke Bartnicki.
Bartnicki hasn't pitched like a freshman so far this season. 20 appearances, including both of the games, or both days against Virginia Tech, Thursday and Saturdays. They played that doubleheader. He appeared in the second of those two games. As you see the stats of the season, 6.63 ERA, and it's a little misleading. Those runs have kind of come in bunches. He's given up 2 runs here, 2 runs there. Gave up 2 of those runs at Virginia Tech in the second of that doubleheader, but he's one of the most highly touted freshmen for Georgia Tech coming in this season, and for the most part this season has been as advertised, exactly what Georgia Tech thought they were getting out of the hard-throwing lefty.
Danny Hall's not been shy about using Bartnicki in high-leverage situations. He inherits one here after the Shunk single and the Talley single. He advanced to second on the throw. Freshman on the mound, a graduate transfer at the plate. Cable parked a 2-run homer to right his first time up. Walked and scored in the fourth.
Bartnicki with that easy, smooth delivery, but the ball explodes out of his hand, and typical of a left-handed pitcher, has a lot of movement on that fastball as well.
Of the freshmen on the Georgia Tech roster, he was the one by consensus the Jacket coaches were most fretful of them losing, who ultimately came to the flats. Pins a strike on the outside corner, 1-2 to Cable. He was recruited to Athens to replace Michael Curry, an all-SEC DH. Cable began his career at Darden State College in Albany, Georgia, and the University of New Orleans, and now Georgia. Swing and a miss. So Bartnicki opens his relief stint with a strikeout, 1 away in the Bulldog fifth.
Really like that pitch sequence by Bartnicki. Get 2 strikes, you don't mess around. Decides to go back with the fastball again. Cable just not able to catch up to it. Bartnicki needed that one with runners in scoring position, less than 2 outs. Strikeout is just what the doctor ordered.
Brings up Cam Shepard, 1 for 2. They will intentionally walk him to set up the double play. Nothing new for Shepard. It's time for 3rd in the SEC in walks. Interesting gambit by the Yellow Jackets, who lead by 2. So they put on the potential go-ahead run, but it sets the left-on-left matchup with Sullivan. An interesting last at-bat. Wound up striking out. That at-bat did not proceed without some controversy. He starts off with a strike. And a ball that bounced off his heel on a swing and miss. And what had Danny Hall so aggrieved during that at-bat was that with the swing and miss, it should have ruled the ball dead. Therefore, that ball which bounced off his heel into the backstop was still judged a wild pitch, which allowed a Georgia run to score. Danny Hall arguing that that ball should have been dead, hence that runner from third should not have advanced.
I think the confusion came, but because none of the umpires were sure that it hit Sullivan on the heel. So Danny Hall was all over it, though.
Just off the plate. Barnicki's been filling up the zone, though. Here's the 1-2. And again off the plate. Trying to nibble away at Sullivan, who's batting .263. And now the count full. Remember the intentional walk to put Shepard aboard. So after starting 0-2 on Sullivan, nowhere to put him now.
Each of those last two pitches missed in the same place for Bartnicki, low and out to the left-handed hitter. He's going to have to come right at Sullivan here and see if Sullivan is up to the task and can do some damage with the bases loaded.
But Bartnicki is up to the task a little more. Swing and a miss for out number 2.
When you got the kind of stuff that Luke Bartnicki does, you can tell him what's coming, and he paints it on the outside corner. That fastball that explodes out of his hand. A little bit of run back towards the left-handed hitter. And Sullivan not able to lay anything on it.
Mason Meadows stands in. First pitch swing and drills it deep into center, but there is room out for Wilhite. Second straight inning, Bulldogs leave him loaded halfway through, and still a lot left to be decided at SunTrust with the Jackets up by 2. Some golden opportunities for the Bulldogs over the last 2 innings. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Couldn't drive them home. They still trail by 2, but the Bulldogs still lead the SEC East. A game up and with the tiebreaker over Vanderbilt as well.
You know, it almost looks like the football standings. The West is absolutely loaded. The East still got some good teams, but there's some strugglers over on that side.
Yeah, how would you like to be the team that is 6th in the West and you're 21st in the country?
That's incredible. It's incredible, but I mean, it's a loaded division. It's the only time you'll ever see Alabama at the bottom of the SEC West.
That has to feel good for the soul of Georgia fans, I'm sure.
Auburn fans too.
Georgia bidding to become a national seed for a second straight year. Finished last season 39-21. New pitcher is Ryan Webb, the sophomore left-hander. And missed some time earlier this season. Now back in the rotation for Scott Strickland. I'll try to follow up on Goodman, who sent down the Jackets for the first time. 1-2-3. Austin Wilhite, Webb, Nick Wilhite, 7 through 9 due up for the Jackets. First pitch bouncer. 6th appearance for Webb. The ERA of 1.69. Limited appearances, as we noted, because of the injury. A 6-week stint on the injured list because of arm soreness. Returned 3 days ago. 6 a strike on the outside, 1-1.
See exactly why they like him when he's healthy, though. That fastball's in the low 90s, and you can see it's kind of like Luke Bartnicki. It explodes out of his hand from the left-handed side.
I'll tell you what, the 6 weeks on the injured list really helped with the flow.
Yeah, it did.
That is some top shelf lettuce.
We have seen a lot of competitiveness so far in this game, but not a lot of hair. Now we've got the hair. Now it's a game, honestly.
Count even at 2 on Wilhite. Austin Wilhite 0 for 11. Did draw 3 walks against Virginia Tech. Entering that series in Blacksburg had an 11-game hitting streak, in which he had raised his batting average by 67 points. Here's the 2-2 and is fouled back. He was on top of that fastball. Georgia Tech, with that series victory against Virginia Tech, has now run his streak to 6 consecutive ACC series victories, longest streak since 2005. What's impressive is that their last 5 series wins, they lost the opening game. So those series wins have been hard earned.
Certainly have been. It's a team that likes to play with its back against the wall, I guess.
3-2 to Wilhite. Fouls it back.
How many foul balls have we seen today with 2 strikes? Just kind of you really have to appreciate the approaches at the plate, the ability and the competitiveness to foul off pitch until you can get one.
Wilhite checks his swing. Meadows wants an appeal. Did not go. And a leadoff walk for Wilhite. Well, quality takes, quality fouls on 2 strikes. What it shows is that these guys are really disciplined in their hitting principles. They're not letting the moment get to them here at SunTrust Park.
And I think a big part of that is training. You know, what's that coaches tell me? You never rise to the occasion. You default to your level of training in big moments, because that's when the nerves hit. And if you're confident in what you do and you've drilled it over and over and over, then it really becomes muscle memory. And Georgia Tech and University of Georgia certainly look like they've been doing that, as they have consistently put together good at-bats and responded when the other team has taken a lead.
Jackson Webb is 1 for 1, a walk and a beautiful bunt single. Certainly some thought given by Danny Hall to having Webb drop one down. And he's been swinging a hot stick. 9 for his last 19. And he's hit safely in 7 straight. Webb on the mound, Webb at the plate.
Thought for sure you'd have a tangled web we weave anecdote or line or something like that. It's probably a little forced there. I ruined the moment, honestly.
You really don't have a high opinion of me, do you?
No. No, I didn't say it was going to be executed as poorly as mine. I thought it was going to be flawlessly executed.
When your first thought is, oh, will Demetra go for the low-hanging fruit on the punt?
No, I was giving you credit. I thought you'd do it in a way that no one would even realize.
Tails outside.
Maybe I just wanted to blame you for me taking a low hanging fruit there. Says the guy.
So really, that was just a clever way of you wanting to say it.
Exactly.
But projecting it upon me.
I pulled it off.
Yeah, you kind of did. That was, got to hand it to you. Webb again just misses. 3-1 now.
Gotta wonder what a long at bat like Austin Wilhite does to a guy who just came in the game.
He issues a second straight free pass. Back-to-back walks to begin for Ryan Webb. as you get a look at Austin Wilhite at second base. Webb having just walked Jackson Webb. That means on the infield, Roddy, there are 2 Webbs, and there will now be 2 Wilhites, with Nick Wilhite standing in.
Seeing double all over the field now. Looking at the scorecard, you got Webbs and Wilhites all over the place.
Pitching coach Sean Kenny for the Bulldogs, trying to gather his sophomore. 29th career appearance for Webb, 7 of which have been in a starting role.
Good job Sean Kenny's done with this pitching staff this season. You mentioned the fact earlier, leads the nation in ERA. So they've gotten great defense behind them as well, but pitching and defense is how Georgia's done it this year, and those guys look like they're having fun. Maybe get them a TV or something in the bullpen. Some cards or dominoes or something. I don't think Scott Strickland would approve of that, but
well, they are all spectators trying to support their left-hander. No activity behind Webb. Georgia Tech's its single season ERA record, Roddy, has stood since 1958. And the Bulldogs, granted, still perhaps 2 more months of the season for this team, on pace to shatter that. Here is Nick Wilhite with the corners drawn in. As the Bulldogs infield anticipates a bunt, Wilhite has to skip out of the way of it. Laid down a successful sac bunt in the second. Spurred the Jackets to a 5 spot. Gave a 7-2 lead at the time, maybe a 6-2 lead. And has since been cut to a 2-run margin. Wilhite lays one down, bounces out towards Shunk on the in-between hop, and he sticks it over to first. Wilhite is a flash up the line, but he moved into second and third, the top of the order due up.
I'll tell you what was a flash during that play, the transfer from the glove to the hand by Shunk at third base. I mean, my goodness, this is the second time he's made that play too. Wilhite gets out of the box fast, and Shunk gets him by a full step. And Aaron Shunk, obviously the closer as well for this Georgia team, but for him to field on the run, transfer that quickly, throw to first base, and he's done it twice. It's one of the most impressive plays, and he makes it look easy.
Top of the order in Luke Waddell, and he has had quite the night. A single in the first, a double in the second, an RBI triple in the third. And now his 4th plate appearance comes in the 5th. Yes, one of his 2 home runs on the season came against the Bulldogs. As Austin Wilhite at second, rather Wilhite at third, Webb at second. And he's ahead 2-0. Zone jumping around on Webb. In danger of loading up the bases via the walk.
You're going to load him potentially for the top part of this Georgia Tech lineup, working your way into the heart. I'd like to get out of this inning without facing Kyle McCann. It starts with Luke Waddell.
Keeps the bat on the shoulder and takes a strike. For 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored for the sophomore from Loveland, Ohio. Count it in, bases loaded. And we should note a right-hander getting hot in a hurry in the Bulldogs bullpen. But can he get warm enough to take on the right-hander Michael Goldberg, who has walked in all 3 plate appearances? Not likely to go chasing against a pitcher in Webb who's had trouble finding the strike zone.
Georgia Tech is not afraid to be aggressive. We've already seen Jackson Webb lay down a bunt. Georgia Tech won't be afraid to lay one down here with a runner on third, although that force out at home plate may make you a little more hesitant.
Another one sinking out of the zone. Goldberg .250 on the year with bases loaded. And right now, he's at the point where Ryan Webb has to show that he can throw a strike.
You might take until you get 2 strikes if you're Michael Goldberg. I mean, the way Webb has been throwing, who knows if Nick Wilhite had seen more than a couple pitches, what would have happened. One of them almost took his feet out. The next one he bunted down the third baseline.
That one gets over. And Webb still trying to regain his form. But he has worked his way into a tight spot against the ACC's batting average leader. 2-1 to Goldberg is again up high.
On Michael Goldberg, this is a take all the way. Make Webb throw you 2 strikes. Be able to get you out. You've already walked twice. Kyle McCann's on deck. I'm taking 100% of the time.
He's swinging away. Comes up empty.
That's why he's a college baseball player and I'm up here. He probably had the mentality that a hitter's supposed to. I want to hit. But as is, Webb's still got to bring you another one.
A stretch in the 3-2. Fly ball right center field. It'll be cut off by Rogers. He makes the grab, stumbles, and that allows Wilhite to tag up. He scores easily. Goldberg puts one into play, drives in the run. Georgia Tech leads it 8-5.
Georgia Tech wanted anybody at the plate in that scenario. Michael Goldberg would certainly be one of those at the top of the list. You knew he was going to put the ball in play, not a guy that strikes out a lot, and on a 3-2 count is able to looping liner into middle of right field, and it's deep enough to score the run, and Georgia Tech's able to extend that lead out to 3.
2 on, 2 out for McCann. Popped a 3-run homer in the second. His last plate appearance was an inning-ending groundout. Georgia has the shift on. Only Shunk patrolling the left side of the infield. And shortstop Shepard is playing step on the grass. Swung to the right field side of second. The home run was McCann's 15th of the year.
Seen quite a few home runs tonight. One that Kyle McCann hit was probably the most impressive. Second deck of the Chop House up by the little area where people can hang out on the patio and enjoy a nice cold one. And to watch out for raining baseballs when Kyle McCann was up a couple innings ago.
That slider dips outside, 1-1. That is the first home run by a Georgia Tech player here at SunTrust Park in this series, which is now in its third game. That will not be the subject. Oh, as they almost have Webb caught off a third. And now Georgia Tech is pleading for a balk. As Webb fell off and was frozen a bit, there was nobody covering behind Webb, and I think that was the intent all along by the Jackets, was try to induce a balk and score that run. We'll take a look at it again.
No, I don't think that was a balk. I think Georgia Tech, we saw the reaction from Kyle McCann at the plate, but looked like he came set and stepped off. He may have come set a little, maybe a little quick count there, but I don't think it was anything too egregious. Now, the thing that it has done is it's brought Aaron Shunk much closer to third base, opening up that hole on the left side of second base even more. Shunk was almost playing at shortstop, which was allowing Webb to play some games over at third base, but now he's moved over closer to the bag, and Kyle McCann's got a little more room to work with towards the second base side of the left side of that infield.
Fouled away 2-2. I think part of that play was also in the salesmanship.
Yeah, exactly. You think that, you sell it a little bit, put a little pressure on the third base umpire, maybe he calls it.
At the corners, 2 balls, 2 strikes. And here it comes to McCann, and it hits him. Base is juiced again.
Well, we've seen it the past couple innings from both teams. Played with fire. Georgia Tech was able to get out of it in the bottom of the last inning. Excuse me, the top of this inning, actually. Should get another look at that. Just got away from Webb on the mound. That ball ran too far in, and Georgia is going to make another pitching change.
They turn to a right-hander with Tristan English, the cleanup batter, up next. 8-5 Jackets here in the 5th. You would not be doing this if you were down 3 with bases loaded from your opposition. Georgia Tech up by 3 as the Bulldogs turn to their converted outfielder Logan Moody, who settled in quite nicely in his relief role. An 8th appearance now for Moody, at 2.92 ERA, 19 strikeouts, 8 walks.
Well, that celebration from Georgia Tech, it's good to see, good for Tech fans to see that it travels as well. It's usually only done at listen to me, Rush Chandler Stadium. Already in football mode. See Logan Moody, the big hard-throwing right-hander. 8 walks, 19 strikeouts on the season, and he's in a precarious situation here with the bases loaded. He's got a couple outs, so he needs the one more, but it is a situation that no reliever wants to come into. But Georgia Tech was in a situation where they had runners on base, the bases loaded, and Luke Bartnicki was able to get out of the inning without giving up a run. Georgia's already given up 1 run this inning, but if they're able to get out of this only giving up the 1 run, they've got to feel pretty good, as their offense has gotten to Georgia Tech at times today.
Bulldogs have left the bases loaded for themselves the last 2 innings, now trying to hold Georgia Tech and strand bases loaded for them. No easy task against Tristan English, who's DHing tonight, back in the lineup after missing 4 straight. Wrist injury he suffered on a hit-by-pitch in the series finale versus Boston College in his first game back, second plate appearance. What does Tristan English do? Get hit by a pitch.
Of course. It's only fitting.
Fly out to center his last time up. His RBI came in the first.
You know, some people just naturally attract mosquitoes. They get bit more than other people. Tristan English is like that with baseballs.
Way out in front on the changeup. English 7th in the nation. Now with 17 hit by pitches. Pops one to high in the air, but no carry. Out into the triangle. We'll see who takes charge. It's the center fielder. Maxwell makes the grab. And Georgia survives the fifth. They walk 3. They allow a hit by pitch, but Georgia Tech only plates 1. It does stretch their lead to 3 as we move to the 6th. Third and final game of this annual series. Number 5 Georgia, number 13 Georgia Tech. Series split at a game apiece. Georgia Tech the 8-5 lead. Georgia Tech also split with North Carolina atop the Coastal Division. North Carolina right now is ahead by overall winning percentage. That's why they're parked above Georgia Tech, but the Yellow Jackets did take 2 of 3 from the Tar Heels a couple of weekends ago. So they will have the tiebreaker as we wind towards the finish in the ACC. Georgia Tech takes on Clemson this weekend at Russ Chandler Stadium.
You got a series left against Clemson, Duke, and Pittsburgh. You got to feel pretty good about your chances to win all 3 of those series. If you can sweep 1 or 2, you'll be right in the mix with North Carolina going into that ACC tournament and in the conversation to be hosting a regional.
9-1-2 for the Bulldogs to start the 6th. It's Cheney Rogers who has singled and walked. 5-6-0 for the Bulldogs. 8-6-1 for the Jackets. Bulldogs had him at 2nd and 3rd. Nobody out in the 5th. When Tech turned to its freshman Luke Bartnicki. Got 2 strikeouts. The base runner he yielded was an intentional walk and kept Georgia scoreless.
It's about as good of a relief appearance as you can have to start it. It was an absolute clinic in the last inning in a high pressure situation. Bartnicki came through for the Jackets.
It was after Tech rolled through 3 different relievers the previous inning. 1-2 to Rogers, fouled off the plate.
It's a good job by Rogers of getting the bat on that at all. That was a tough pitch, buried in on the hands. Barely fouled it off the handle of the bat, but stayed alive.
Fisted foul. It has been quite a last 7 days for these Georgia Bulldogs. It all started last Tuesday, like we told you earlier, that marathon 20-inning win over Clemson, which took 6.5 hours. We might be on pace for 6.5 hours and only get in 9 tonight. But then on Friday, in the air to left field, Hall runs over toward the line. One last burst of speed to pull it in. But then on Friday, Georgia did something it hadn't done since 1963. They turned a triple play against Missouri. And they followed that up on Saturday by tossing a one-hitter against the Tigers. That is, our old This Week in Baseball.
Yeah.
That is an episode unto itself.
It has not lacked in interest over the last week.
Triple play the Bulldogs turned came in the first inning. Tigers had loaded the bases, nobody out. You don't often think about momentum in a 9-inning game swinging in the first, but that is a prime example. Tigers thought they had a big inning right out of the chute. And triple play turned things on a dime.
It's one of those where you turn a triple play in the first inning, you're like, all right, guys, let's go home. Our work here is done. Bulldogs' work was not done, and they were awesome in that series against Missouri.
There's Maxwell 0 for 2. Jerks that down the line, hooking towards the foul pole, and it is gone, a home run. Maxwell with a missile. He gets the run back from the Tech fifth, and it's now 8-6.
We talked about the fact that Maxwell was a guy that could do it in a number of different ways, leads this team in home runs and also stolen bases. This ball was destined to go foul and just ran out of room at the very end, getting over the fence before the foul pole, before going on the opposite side of the foul pole. It was a laser down the line. Great job by Maxwell to turn on that one and clawing a run back.
Maxwell joins Shunk and Cable with home runs tonight. Here's King 0 for 3. SunTrust Park is in its 3rd season, Roddy, and I think the consensus tilts more toward this being a homer-friendly park than a pitcher-friendly park, as King parks a single to right.
Just a little different than where the Braves were previously. Turner Field, more known as a pitcher's park than a home run park, that's for certain, but off of what we've seen today alone, I'm willing to declare this is a home run friendly park.
Might be a home run friendly park. We know it's a home run friendly night.
Yeah.
As Aaron Shunk can attest, solo home run to begin the 4th, singled but was stranded in the 5th. Doesn't look like Shunk will face Bartnicki as Danny Hall pops out. Bartnicki inherited trouble in the 5th. Came away unscathed. And after retiring Rogers on the flyout, the solo home run to Maxwell, the single by King. Hugh Chapman loosening in the Georgia Tech bullpen. We'll see if the call is made. I think Danny Hall might just be buying time. Chapman says he's ready. And he gets the call. New pitcher for the Jackets. Leading by 2 in the 6th. Hugh Chapman, the new Georgia Tech pitcher. 8 appearances, an ERA just under 5 for Chapman. A youngster who has a live arm. See if he can locate against the heart of this Bulldog order.
We saw him last week in the midweek against another SEC opponent in Auburn, and went an inning, gave up 1 run, 2 hits, struck out 1, did not walk a batter, and Georgia Tech's 11-6 win. And he's going to be asked to come in and get out a guy in Aaron Shunk, who's been all over the place. Home run, single today. He's made a couple of sterling defensive plays, and yeah, one of the best in the entire country as you see some of the youngsters out. I'll tell you what, man. The dance moves of the youngsters that we have seen on the Jumbotron tonight. There's a kid on the Jumbotron right now with no shirt on.
A young Petey Pablo.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's been impressive. I don't even know what these dances are now. Do you like? There's one where you just like wiggle your arms all over the place, and I don't know.
Yeah, I'm over my skis on that one too.
Okay, yeah.
Getting a little late on a school night for these kids, but certainly bringing a lot of energy to what is always a lively atmosphere at SunTrust Park. The first year these teams met at SunTrust, first year of the building, 33,000 plus. We told you earlier, outside of TD Ameritrade Park in Omaha, this game annually attracts the largest crowd in college baseball.
And imagine what that number is going to be next year if it's on a weekend.
And these teams have shifted their series from 3 midweek games scattered through the middle of the season to 3 weekend games. Likely the 3rd weekend of the regular season as the ball dips down and away from Shunk. Replicating what South Carolina and Clemson have done for the last decade or so. Another one bounces in, smothered by McCann.
Yeah, that one went about 58 feet. Kyle McCann did a good job of keeping it in front. And that's one of the things that's impressed me the most about Kyle McCann this year. Just Georgia Tech didn't have to use him behind the plate all that much because of Joey Bart, but he's been a very good defender. We saw him throw out a batter earlier in the game, and see the work that he does with balls in the dirt as well.
Works a lot with volunteer assistant Dan Chaffee, who specialty is coaching catchers. And McCann defensively tonight. Gunned down Tucker Maxwell. 19 stolen bases. A swing and a miss by Shunk. Ate him up. 2-2. There's another virtue, I think, of playing this game at a facility like SunTrust Park, aside, of course, from all the money raised for Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. Fly ball lifted down the line. Long run for Radcliffe. Can he get there in foul territory? He does. Tumbling into the tarp. Extra effort for the second out. The hustle by the sophomore to retire the dangerous Aaron Shunk.
Well, the benefits of playing in a pro stadium, a lot of room and foul territory, and Baron Radcliffe needed just about all of it. Honestly, I kind of feel sorry for that wall. Radcliffe is not a small man. Former high school quarterback, going nearly full speed into it, but able to make the play, and wall seemed okay too.
2 outs for Talley. Pair of runs scored and a single for Talley. But I think where this game can benefit both programs is TD Ameritrade Park in Omaha. It's not the same capacity, but it has the same feel of SunTrust Park. And oftentimes you get teams that might not be used to the enormity of a ballpark like that. Check swing. McCann wants an appeal. He did go. And for lack of a better term, Rodney, they get stage fright when they're playing in the College World Series. We'll take a look at that check swing again from Talley.
Georgia fans were not exactly pleased with that call, but it was called a strike nonetheless. I tend to side with them on that one.
Yeah,
that one didn't even look close.
Borderline perhaps. Changes speeds by Chapman. 1-2.
You were being a little generous with the perhaps there.
Umpires have a hard job.
They do. Very difficult. Very difficult. We have a much easier one getting to say that was a bad call.
And the dirt blocked by McCann. 2-2. And so for a Georgia team that has ambitions, much like Georgia Tech, of going to the College World Series, should they advance to Omaha, they're going to feel some familiarity playing in a ballpark like this, and not every team who makes it to the Final 8 can have that on their resume.
There's a distinct feel of a pro ballpark, and TD Ameritrade, like you said, feels like that. So it'll help in the moment.
Ground ball pulled to second. Will Hyde is over. 1 run, 2 hits, 1 left for Georgia. The home run by Maxwell makes it an 8-6 game. As the Cow lords over the proceedings at SunTrust Park tonight. 8-6 as we move to the bottom of the 6th. Georgia Tech led 1-0 through 1. But that was erased on this 2-run shot by John Cable. Home runs would be a theme tonight. Luke Waddell, bottom of the 2nd, a 2 RBI double. And then 2 batters later, it was Kyle McCann, a 3-run shot to the chop house, part of a 5-run Tech second. They continued the assault in the 3rd with a Luke Waddell RBI triple with 2 outs, grazed at the top of the wall. Aaron Shunk in the Georgia 4th responds with a leadoff home run to kickstart a 3-run inning for the Bulldogs. And with the Tucker Maxwell home run in the top of the 6th, back to a 2-run game, 8-6 Yellow Jackets.
It's been back and forth and back and forth, and a lot of fun to watch. Georgia's kind of played from behind for most of this game, but it is a lead that is slowly dwindling for the Jackets. And in the last inning, Logan Moody did a good job of getting out of that inning. He'll be asked to hold the Jackets here, keep that lead at 2s. Georgia's starting to climb back in. They got a run in the top of the 6th. They're running out of innings, so every run matters now.
0-2 on Radcliffe, who's 0 for 2 with a walk. Georgia the top ERA in the nation, so they know, even trailing, that they've got the depth of arms to hold margins where they are, leave that door ajar for their offense as Radcliffe goes down on 3 pitches.
Good pitch by Moody out on the outside part of the plate. Ran away from Radcliffe. A two-seam fastball with a lot of late life to it. You could see him walking off, talking to Colin Hall, kind of making that motion away, saying, "That thing ran away from me." Couldn't quite get my bat on it.
First pitch, the Hall runs in on him for a strike. Hall is 0 for 3 with the strikeout. Checked his swing, didn't go. Anytime an appeal does not go your way when you're at the plate, and the very next appeal for the opponent doesn't go your way either,
the fix is in, is what you're thinking.
Moody came out with bases loaded, 2 outs in the 5th, got English to fly out. Made quick work of Radcliffe, bidding to do the same to Hall.
Moody's been mixing up his pitches. There's a couple different fastballs that we've seen. In on Colin Hall, you saw that there. The off-speed pitch had Hall out in front.
Blows one by Hall.
Yeah, for that one he went up in the zone. First time we've really seen that out of Moody, but I don't like what you've seen out of him tonight. I mean, he's been on it. He has been sharp. He has been explosive as he runs out when the inside part of the plate up at the letters, and Colin Hall swings right under.
There's Austin Wilhite. One paints the outside corner. It's the bottom third of the order for the Yellow Jackets, but Wilhite, Webb, and Nick Wilhite have done some fine work. 2 for 3 combined, 2 sack bunts, 2 walks, and 4 runs scored. Moody right now is pounding the zone.
2 sack bunts and a bunt for a hit from Jackson Webb as well. Hasn't always left the infield, but may have been effective.
Swing and a miss. Fished out of the dirt. Pegged across a little high, but on time and on target. And Logan Moody strikes out the side. Very few innings. Pitchers have dominated the hitters. That was one. We moved to the 7th, still 8-6 Jackets. On to the 7th. Georgia Tech leads Georgia 8-6. ESPN and the ACC bring you ACC Network coming August 2019. 15 universities all on one network. Visit getaccn.com to learn more. Both offenses have been charged up tonight. 8-6 Jackets, Hugh Chapman to begin the 7th against Cable, Shepard, and Sullivan.
And the crowd is not quite as packed as it was early. It is a school night, and it's after 10 o'clock. The 7 o'clock first pitch. But those who have stuck around have seen a really entertaining game. A lot of runs, and unlike the first 2 games of this series this year, a competitive game, not a blowout.
Georgia Tech took the first game 11-2. Even was shortened to 7 innings by rain. Georgia rebounded to 12-2 hammering in Athens on April the 9th. Quickly 0-2 on Cable. Georgia was sent down in order by starter Court Rodig in the first. They've gotten a hit in every inning since. Cable started the scoring for the Bulldogs with that 2-run homer in the second. And a wave and a miss as Chapman fans him. 7th inning, which means the critically acclaimed, world-renowned 7th inning trivia is coming up soon as we get another look at that nasty bender by Chapman.
Great breaking ball. Started over the heart of the plate, dove down, ended up just off the inside corner, and much like me during that trivia, John Cable comes up swinging and missing.
I've got confidence in you tonight.
Okay. Famous last words for me.
There's Shepard, who's 1 for 2. Flinches and takes a strike. Stan, a former all-conference outfielder at Georgia Southern. Fouls it away, 1-2. Georgia Tech chase starter Tim Elliott, who's 5th in the nation in WHIP, 9th in hits allowed per 9 innings after just an inning and a third. That ball deep in the hole to second. On the grass, the spin by Will Heighten, the throw, not in time. Boy, he gave a solid effort on that 360 spin, but Shepard too much speed.
I don't know what I would have done had he actually made that play, but I was rising out of my chair at the prospect of him doing so. Just not able to get enough on this throw. But honestly, that spin is the only way he was going to be even able to execute it. The fact that he got to it is impressive enough, but Shepard was blazing down the line.
The shortstop flashing his speed. Put another runner aboard for Patrick Sullivan. It's now 9-6 in favor of the Bulldogs. Out to second, could be 2. The shovel to second, turn and throw by Waddell, plenty of time. And a 4-6-3 ends the Georgia 7th. Time to stretch at SunTrust Park. We got a good one. Jackets 8, Bulldogs 6. 8-6 Tech in the bottom of the 7th. Our 7th inning trivia, however, concerns extra innings in honor of Georgia's 20-inning marathon win last Tuesday versus Clemson. Roddy, tonight's 7th inning trivia. What is the longest game in the history of the Georgia Tech-Georgia baseball series? Wasn't long enough for Waffle House because they're open 24 hours.
Exactly.
But the longest game in the now 376-game history of the Jackets versus the Bulldogs on the diamond.
See, I like this one because it's only a few. It's not going to be longer than like 15. There's no way it can be longer than that. So it's got to be from 10 to 15. I don't think it's going to be 10. It's too short. 11 seems too short too. So now we're down to 12, 13, 14, or 15. 15 seems a little lengthy. Certainly over the course of their time playing each other, they have to have had a 14-inning game.
So
that's what I'm going to end up with.
14?
14 innings. 14, good number. Good number.
Moody struck out the side, the Tech 6th. Sails one high and away to Webb. Pair walks and a bunt single for Webb.
Unless you're trying to trick me. And the answer is actually 10.
We'll see. Now, Georgia Tech had a torrent of offense early. Yes, this Georgia staff that leads the nation in fewest hits allowed per 9 innings. And Georgia Tech has now scratched out a hit since the 3rd. On that Waddell RBI. Oh, and a leaping grab by Sullivan. Put that on the highlight reel. Wow.
That play was jaw-dropping. I mean, a total reaction dive from Sullivan at first base. Patrick Sullivan with full extension. There's a snow cone on the edge of the glove. He fields it, nonchalantly throws it around the diamond. What a play.
You know, when you make a play like that, you try to suppress your smile, but boy, nobody can fault Patrick Sullivan for that.
You know what number Patrick Sullivan is? Number 14.
Oh, so you think it's destiny?
It is destiny. It's 14. That's the answer. It's got to be.
Here's Wilhite. Wilhite has laid down a pair of successful sac punts tonight. And subscribe to the belief that pitching and defense wins you titles. Georgia has both in abundance. Number 1 in the nation in staff ERA, number 3 fielding percentage. Only 2 other teams alongside Georgia rank in the top 10 nationally in those categories. Tennessee and Stanford.
Stanford, one of the top 3 teams in the country, and Tennessee took 2 or 3 from the University of Georgia. At one point was ranked for much of the season.
Rounded to second. Talley, 2 outs. Ronnie, you guessed 14 innings is the longest game in the Georgia Tech-Georgia baseball series history. Now, 2 interesting footnotes about that.
Oh, it was a tie.
It was set 105 years ago, and the game ended in a scoreless tie, one of 2 ties in the history of the series.
Wow. Wow. The number 14 was just calling to me there, and then when Patrick Sullivan made that diving grab, the number 14. I feel like it's that scene in that movie with Will Smith, Focus, where like there's 5 all around you, and for whatever reason you end up going with the 5 and you win. That's how it was with 14 to me. It was calling to me. Sorry for all of our fans who don't typically watch. Whenever I get a trivia question correct, which is very rare, take a victory lap for the whole rest of the inning.
Oh, you are tearing your rotator cuff right now, patting yourself on the back. Well done, though. Well done.
Carly isn't even here to give me the answer.
Fly ball. That is tattooed into right center, but Rogers watches it die off at the track. The Jackets go down in order in the 7th. Now that game in 1914 lasted 14. We move on to the 8th. Still 8-6 Jackets. Jackets and Bulldogs trade a scoreless 7th. 8-6 Georgia Tech as we take a peek at Georgia's upcoming schedule. Gets no easier as they head to Starkville for 3 and number 8 Mississippi State. Taking on Florida back at Foley Field to begin the month of May. So Scott Strickland, Georgia head coach, faces Florida, led by athletic director Scott Strickland. And a road swing into the state of Alabama, Jacksonville State, and the Auburn Tigers. And Tristan English gets the call out of the bullpen. Earned the save in Game 2 versus the Hokies on Saturday. That was the first game of their doubleheader. His 4th save of the year, set to make his 11th appearance.
Mentioned the fact that he's not at first base due to the fact that he's still recovering from getting hit on the arm by that pitch a couple weeks ago, and has not kept him off the mound, though. And it's getting to the point of the season where Danny Hall is going to need Tristan English down the stretch, so it's time to start working him in regularly and start to get those innings in, helping him get sharp a little bit, and likely the Georgia Tech closer going forward as this bullpen started to perform better for Georgia Tech. I think you have to be pleased with what they gave you over the weekend at Virginia Tech. Tristan English being a big part of that.
Meadows leads off. That wrist injury, which caused English to miss 4 games, happened to his glove hand, not his throwing hand. That's his return to the mound this past weekend. And Georgia's Aaron Shuck, both on the John Olerud 2-way Player of the Year watch list. hasn't quite been the volume of saves from Tristan English as perhaps Georgia Tech had anticipated.
Saves are one of those things where it's all about the number of opportunities and the number converted. And if they come in big moments, other than that, it's one of those things that I think coaches could kind of take or leave, because if you're winning big, there's no opportunity for saves.
Fly ball straight away center. Wilhite has a beat on it, 1 out.
This game has kind of settled down, and after a real back and forth early in this game, kind of reached a point where the bullpens are really dominating. Just got to take some time to give a shout out to our crew. Our crew overcame some obstacles early in the broadcast, with us having some technical difficulties to start the broadcast up here with our microphones, making our producer Kyle Apad a little nervous. But I've heard that one of our cameramen has overcome a lot of adversity today. A little bit of sickness, playing through some pain. So Clint, heck of a job today, man.
His Jordan flu game.
Yeah, exactly.
We appreciate his steady hand operating the camera tonight, as the count moves to 1-2 on Cheney Rogers. A single and a walk for Rogers. And he blisters this into left center. The hits continue to pile up for the Bulldogs. Can they scratch across a pair of runs? Top of the order now at Maxwell.
It's the hardest hit ball we've seen in a couple of innings. That ball was laced to left center field. Great inside out swing. Lines it out to Nick Wilhite, and Georgia's got a base runner on. They had a base runner on in the last inning, and it was erased by a 4-6-3 double play to end the inning.
Maxwell homered his last at bat. His team leading 9th.
He's probably the least likely Bulldog to ground into a double play as well. Leads the team in stolen bases, although he was caught stealing earlier in this game. The center fielder's got plenty of speed to spare.
Popped shallow behind third. Webber gets waved off by Waddell. 2 away.
It's a good job by Waddell of calling off Jackson Webb. Shortstop always has a better angle to field those, and it was a little bit of a late call, but the communication was there, and Webb got the heck out of Dodge.
Those can be tricky, especially given the circumstances.
Yeah, and the shortstop, I mean, in this case, Luke Waddell was running so hard he almost overran that ball.
Two outs now as it brings up Riley King, the left fielder. Singled but was stranded his last time. And tied is 2-0.
One of the things that you really like about Tristan English is you can almost see the competitiveness on the mound. His demeanor, I mean, everything he does. The Georgia Tech team talks about him as one of the most fierce competitors on the team.
Two-time All-American, but he walks King on 4 pitches, which puts the game-tying run aboard in the Bulldog 8th.
Brings up the home run man from earlier, Aaron Shunk.
So 2 of the best two-way players in the country set to battle with English on the mound. And Aaron Shunk hit the plate. Shunk also singled in the 5th. He flew out to right his last time. Jason Howell, Georgia Tech pitching coach, pay a visit to English before the at-bat.
all about strategy, how you want to pitch Aaron Schunk. Talking about potentially what happened earlier when he hit that home run, and just seeing what Tristan English feels comfortable with. All in all, really, the fastball has been his best pitch. He's been able to locate it most consistently, with the exception of that last at bat. So, see if this changes anything about the way that he's been approaching the hitters so far.
He faces a man in Schunk who also homered last year at SunTrust Park. 2 on, 2 out. Lays off and takes low. Third-team preseason All-America by Baseball America, is a two-way player. On top of that fastball, but fouls it straight back. Outfield will try to snuff out any potential doubles.
It's tough in a place like this. It's as cavernous as these major league ballparks can be. Tech fans, every time Aaron Schunk starts to swing the bat, kind of hold their breath a little bit. He's been right on a couple of pitches, a little bit late on that last one, but pretty good contact.
English gets one he likes. 2-2.
That was a really good pitch. Just off the outside corner, made Schunk think about it. That's what he goes with here. Have not seen a ton of off speed from Tristan English.
Jammed him. A slow roller to short. And Waddell throws. Does it pull us off the bag? No. Goldberg keeps the back foot on. Scott Strickland will want to talk things over. But remember, no replay here at SunTrust in tonight's game. Scott Strickland is heated. Georgia Tech up by 2. Another look. Was the foot off, or was the tag applied? It looks like the sign was that the back foot was on by Goldberg. So the Bulldogs strand 2, still down 2 as we move to the bottom of the 8th. To the bottom of the 8th, one last look though, and that final out of the top of the 8th.
A bang-bang play at first base. See if Michael Goldberg kept his foot on. Oh man, that was so close. The entire Georgia dugout says safe. The only opinion that mattered on that one was the opinion of Morris Hodges.
Georgia Tech's upcoming schedule, welcoming in Clemson for 3 big games this weekend. And then their bye weekend in the ACC sees them welcome in Western Carolina, closing out their road conference schedule at Duke. It seemed to sweep Clemson over the weekend. First pitch skips in the dirt to Goldberg. Now remember, Goldberg is at first base. A utility infielder, but not his natural position. And as you can tell, doesn't have that prototypical first base size, which might have worked against him on that stretch. But apparently he kept that back foot on just long enough in the eyes of our first base umpire to call Schunk out for the final out of the inning.
And we didn't exactly get the Freddie Freeman split from Michael Goldberg over there at first base.
Typically when Tristan English starts at first base, then comes on in relief, Jackson Webb, if he's not in the lineup already, will move over to first base. But that's typically because Oscar Serratos is over at third base. Goldberg in the field, you don't want to take his bat out of the lineup as he swings away, skies this just beyond third base. Shepard, one away.
Yeah, that's something that Georgia Tech's going to have to figure out going forward, because it looks like Jackson Webb has kind of established a little bit of a stranglehold on that third base position. So the question is it Michael Goldberg that continues to come in and play that first base spot? I would guess it is when Tristan English comes in to pitch.
I think also it becomes a moot point when English becomes healthy enough with the wrist.
Right.
To get back at first base, because then Goldberg would be back DH.
Obviously, yep.
Cal McCann, a 3-run homer in the second. Also reached by a hit by pitch in the fifth. 8 straight sent down by Moody. He has brought the fire extinguisher out of the Bulldog bullpen.
A time when they needed it. I'm going to give his offense an opportunity to get back in this game, and he certainly has done that. Offense just hasn't held up their end of the bargain.
High and tight, 2-1. McCann, 2 home runs this year against the Bulldogs. A junior from Sewanee, Georgia. Lays off, takes in the dirt.
Logan Moody's worked himself into a 3-1 count, excuse me. He has been very efficient, working quickly, throwing strikes. He's shown great stuff here tonight.
Down and in. That's the first base runner he's allowed.
Not everybody can be perfect all night, and Logan Moody largely has been, but at the time just got behind Kyle McCann and wasn't able to climb back into it. But as good as he has been, this Georgia offense seems like going to need only a 2-run lead. Anything more Georgia Tech would love to have, it's going to be tough for the Bulldogs to overcome with Tristan English on the mound.
Well, swung out of his shoes. 0-1. English 0 for 2 with an RBI. Nice pick by Meadows. Save McCann for moving up a base. The interesting dichotomy, I guess, in this Georgia staff is that though they lead the nation in ERA, they also have uncorked the second most wild pitches in the SEC.
They don't walk a lot of guys. They'll occasionally let one go to the backstop. I think that's a trade that you'd be willing to make.
Another one in the dirt, stopped by Meadows. Moody falls behind another batter, 2-1 to English.
Either that or, I love a good conspiracy theory. They've got a really catcher-friendly official scorer who has given some pass balls as wild pitches, thus skewing the numbers. Could be one, either one.
Hooks down the line, foul. That being said, there are far more pitchers on a roster than there are catchers, and so you never want a mass of pitchers knocking at your door contesting your scoring.
That's true. You don't want to pile on the one catcher, though. I mean, what if he's your favorite guy on the team? I'm telling you, we could spin anything into a conspiracy theory.
Count even on English. Moody rifles it home, grounded to third, and it trickles off of Shunk's glove, rolls into short left. McCann hustles to third. If it scored in air, it would be a costly one and an uncharacteristic one from the Bulldogs, as the Jackets have met the corners.
is going to be scored in error. That was a tough hop for Aaron Shunk over at third base. Let's kind of gets an in-between hop, skips up on him a little too much, and I think he kind of got that bare hand a little bit, shaking it as he went back to cover third base. He still is working it out a little bit, so I think it took a different hop than he expected. Charged with the error and the uncharacteristic error. He's been so good defensively all night, and this Georgia defense has been great all season.
Brings up Barron Radcliffe, who struck out his last 2 times, including against Moody. And he takes on the outside corner for a strike. Radcliffe batted 5 for 11 with 3 RBIs, 3 walks and an RBI versus Virginia Tech. He emerged from Blacksburg as Georgia Tech's best hitter of the series. Can he deliver an insurance run in the clutch? Off foul, 0-2. Georgia, we should note, also 13th in the nation in strikeouts per 9 innings. And they also rack plenty of those up. Radcliffe has been the victim twice. Swing and a miss, chasing some high heat. 2 outs.
It's been a day to forget, a night to forget for Barron Radcliffe. This time Moody climbs up in the zone. Radcliffe got a bat on it, but right into the glove of Meadows behind the plate, and he has sat down for the 3rd time swinging.
Hall will search for a timely first hit. He's 0 for 4, pair of strikeouts. Checked his swing, couldn't hold up. Georgia has Talley, Cable, Shepard, 4, 5, and 6 due up in the 9th. First time these programs have met in the final game of their series, both ranked since 2009, and we've been treated to a good one. Hammered foul. Hops up into the seats, 1-2.
Diehards that have stuck with us through this lengthy affair have been treated to a back and forth contest with some long balls. We had some great pitching, some timely strikeouts, quite a number of runs scored, 14 total, and close game in the bottom of the 8th. A high pressure situation.
Hall hits 280. Again, spoils off a fastball. So far, it's been 3 innings of hitless relief for Logan Moody with 4 strikeouts. Only 1 walk. He has done his job. He looks to record 1 last out, send his team to the 9th, down by 2. He is getting a battle from Colin Hall, the coach's son.
He's fighting. Got off some good pitches. I'm Moody. I think I try and get Colin Hall to chase here. He's been aggressive. We go with something out of the zone and hope that Colin Hall swings and misses.
Just gets a piece. A fiber of aluminum on a stitch of baseball to stay alive at a ball and 2 strikes.
Like Moody tried to do just that. He went out of the zone a little bit, down and away. The ball was diving down and away as well, but Colin Hall continuing to fight. All right, it seems like it doesn't matter where he goes. Up in the zone, down in the zone, outside, inside. Colin Hall's going to play spoiler. I don't know if we've seen the off speed so far in this at bat. Go down in the dirt. Try there.
Into left center. Maxwell was shaded over there. Makes the grab. Georgia Tech. A walk and air, but no runs to the ninth. 8-6. To the ninth at SunTrust. 8-6 Georgia Tech. The Jackets played at 7 of their 8 in the first 3 innings. The sophomore Luke Waddell was right in the middle of it.
Well, he was in fuego to start this game. He had this double in the second inning. Scored a couple. Had a triple in the third off the wall. Scored a run as well. He has been all over the place after a single in the first, double in the second, triple in the third, walk in the fifth. Scored a couple of runs. Luke Waddell is player of the game.
This following a game in Athens in which he had a double and then a 2-run homer in Georgia Tech's win at Russ Chandler Stadium, 3 outs away from taking tonight's game. Taking the annual series versus Georgia. Bulldogs won't make it easy. Talley, Cable, Shepard, 4 through 6 due up. Tristan English tries to work the 6-out save.
Exactly the guy you want on the mound in this situation. And it's a good experience for Tristan English in the big-time stadium against the rival. Top 10 team. You're up by 2 going for the 6-out save. You got to face the heart of the lineup.
And it begins with Talley, who leads the Bulldogs in average. 1 for 3 tonight with a walk. Talley's .349, also 9th in the SEC. 1-1. Senior from Folkestone, Georgia, who playing in his final clean old-fashioned hate. All SEC a year ago. Certainly on pace to duplicate that this year. English is 2-1. Punched foul.
This Bulldogs offense has been so good, not giving away outs during this game. Talley is not doing one either. Talk about fiber of aluminum on a stitch of a baseball. That one goes straight back, but there's not much sound to that foul ball at all.
Out to third. Webb from range, 1 out. You notice where they'd positioned Jackson Webb. He wasn't hugging the line. He was more in the 5-6 hole. That was exactly where Danny Hall needed him.
And with the left-handed hitter up, swung the infield around and was right at Jackson Webb, who threw a strike over to first base.
Cable up with 1 out. Since his home run in the second, Cable has walked and scored. Strikeouts in the 5th and 7th. And he's ahead on English, 2-0. And again stays up, 3-0.
With the way the ball has been flying out of the ballpark today, Tristan English, you want to avoid a walk here at all costs, bringing the tie and run to the plate.
It was a sharp fall off by English.
It was. Oh, weird.
Gets the strike, though, 3-1. Line shot right to Goldberg. 2 away. That was the definition of an atom ball from John Cable, well struck. But Goldberg, making his third straight start at first base, shows the reflexes to put the Jackets on the brink of the series win.
I'm not sure you can hit the ball any harder than John Cable did right there. That's why baseball is a game of failure. Sometimes you do everything right and you still end up getting out.
Comebacker just over a leaping English. In between hop. Will Height, the stretch by Goldberg. And Georgia Tech takes the series from SunTrust Park tonight. The final score, the Jackets 8, the Bulldogs 6. The first two in this series were lopsided. This one goes down to the final out, but Georgia Tech holds off a hard-charging Bulldogs team. They moved to 28-13, and they will have bragging rights in Atlanta for the next year.
They exercise some of the demons of SunTrust Park, getting the first win in the new stadium, the Atlanta Braves, and getting the first series win over the University of Georgia in a long time. It has been Georgia winning 7 of the last 8 before this one here today. A great performance by the Jackets from top to bottom. They jumped out to the early lead. The bullpen came in late, settled everything down, shut out this Georgia team in the late innings. What a game, though.